would be a great thing for South Korea, be great for Japan, and great for the world. It's moving along very nicely. So we're looking at June 12th in Singapore. That hasn't changed.
And overnight, the president of South Korea speaking about his second summit with the North Korean leader, this for the first time, and announcing that Kim Jong-un is still committed to denuclearization, but there's one important caveat. CNN's Sarah Westwood is live from Washington. All right, Sarah, what does Kim want?
While Kim Jong-un is still open to denuclearization, that's according to South Korean President Moon Jae-in, but the North Korean leader is said to be fearful that the U.S. might consider a policy of regime change or demand unilateral disarmament without offering to reduce the U.S. military presence on the peninsula. Now, even as Kim Jong-un is continuing demands for the safety and security of his regime, President Trump is still projecting optimism that the summit he canceled will still take place as scheduled on June 12th in Singapore, even as senior administration officials caution that the 16 days remaining between now
made. There were a couple of things he said that might have caught somebody's ear.
Right. President Trump definitely taking the victory lap on the release of 26-year-old American Joshua Holt from a Venezuelan prison where he'd been held for 2 years. Welcoming Holt to the White House, President Trump touted the more than a dozen prisoners or detainees who have been freed since the start of his presidency, and he hinted that there could be more Americans welcomed home soon. Take a listen.
It's really very special to have you both. You've gone through a lot.
There were very, very, very difficult 2 years. Not really the great vacation that I was looking for, but we're still together. Starting off a marriage rough, but now we're going to be together, and I'm just so grateful for what you guys have done and for thinking about me and caring about me, just a normal person.
You were a tough one, I have to tell you. That was a tough situation. But we've had 17 released, and we're very proud of that record. Very proud. And we have others coming. We're in the midst of some very big negotiations to get others out. In most cases, they're Americans, but we can try and help other countries too.
Of a hostage is taking place at a critical moment in his foreign policy. So I'm not surprised to hear that, and this is it's the kind of boast President Trump likes to do, but in this case it converges with an important development.
They also said the U.S. offered nothing to Venezuela. Do we have any gauge of how this return happened?
We don't know. What we do know, there were back channels that were established through one of Senator Corker's Latin American aides, who's been in contact and negotiating with the Venezuelans for a long time now. And part of it seems to be about the Venezuelan government seeking to develop its own legitimacy. And this might have been part of that. But we really don't know if anything was exchanged or exactly.
that? I mean, how does the U.S. balance that with what it has to do to verify that Kim will actually stay with that promise?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and we're dealing with an administration that is probably not going to be fully prepared for the summit if it takes place. President Trump, on his own words, likes to go in without having much of a game plan, making decisions as this unfolds. So somehow it seems that the North Koreans will demand some kind of evidence, some kind of verification that they will stay in place, that the U.S. will withdraw some of its military forces from the region. I don't know if President Trump will be willing to do that. The good news is they're talking, or at least it looks like they'll be talking. And that's the key for the first summit, simply to have two people in the room, simply to have a conversation going. The details don't actually necessarily need to be worked out before that takes place.
All right, Julian Zalazar, we appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Later this morning, by the way, President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is on State of the Union, along with James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence. And you can see that right here on CNN.
This is a very vicious disease. I greet every day with gratitude.
McCain's former presidential campaign manager, John Weaver, is with us next to talk about John McCain.
It's absolute confidence in 30,000 precision parts, or it isn't. It's inspected by Mercedes-Benz factory-trained technicians, or it isn't. It's backed by an unlimited mileage warranty, or it isn't. For those who never settle, it's either Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned, or it isn't. The Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned sales event, now through May 31st, only at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer.
It took guts to start my business, but as it grew bigger and bigger, it took a whole lot more. And that's why I switched to the Spark Cash Card from Capital One. With it, I earn unlimited 2% cash back on everything I buy. Everything. And that 2% cash back adds up to thousands of dollars each year. So I can keep growing my business in big leaps. What's in your wallet?
We came here for the friends, and we got to know the friends of our friends. Facebook will do more to keep you safe and protect your privacy. Because when this place does what it was built for, then we all get a little closer.
What you don't see can hurt you. Today's connected world is full of threats you may not see if you just monitor your credit to help protect your identity. LifeLock sees more, like your personal information on the dark web. And now with the power of Norton, we detect threats like ransomware too, to help protect your identity and devices. Plus, if there's an identity theft problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 Million Protection Package. Get new LifeLock with Norton, starting at $7.99 a month.
Technology changes how we serve the consumer, and it does it in all of our industries today.
Right.
It's the place where customization and focus on the consumer come together.
Yeah, what are we able to do if we have the freedom to make the most of our time?
You know, with robotics and technology doing work that people do today, companies need to take the paradigms of old and re-engineer them.
A significant amount of those companies, if they can't figure this out, they're going to be gone.
Well, it's the power of play, and being able to bring that into your company no matter what you're doing. You can start to solve bigger problems.
So there is legitimacy to the fear that jobs go away when there's more automation.
You can take entire
Ahead of it, yeah.
How do you stay ahead of it and do it?
At KPMG, we actually help our clients think about that journey. We have a very formal process for innovation, and we celebrate more human interaction, more solving problems. Right? Those are the things we help our clients solve.
No bars. Oh no! When I got unlimited, they told me they were all the same. Well, Verizon has the largest, most reliable 4G LTE network in America.
Honey, what if it was just us out here?
Yeah, well, I guess I didn't think about that. Verizon did.
Go with the best, starting at $40 a line for 4 lines.
Your brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen helps your brain with an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, the name to remember.
Maverick, American hero. There are a lot of ways that people describe Senator John McCain, but these are his own words. This is a quote here. "I have lived an honorable life, and I am proud of my life."
Yeah, and a tribute to the man who's given so much of himself to his country. This Memorial Day, HBO is
of who John fundamentally was.
We need to give the American people what they deserve, and they're not getting it.
John Weaver with us now. He's a GOP strategist and a former presidential campaign manager to Senator John McCain. John, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Tell us something about John McCain that maybe we wouldn't know.
Well, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. As I traveled the country with John early in the presidential pursuit, 1997, 98, what we found was that people came to him looking for a return to respect in our government, and he had such empathy for that mission, and he was greatly concerned at that time about what was happening in Washington. Of course, that concern has grown even larger today. But his love of country was something that I've never seen and not seen since.
You know, we have
and he refused that. He never counted himself as a hero. He talked on a very limited basis about his time in prison, but when he did so, he talked about others and the sacrifices that they made. When we walked through airports, if he saw a young soldier, airman, a woman in the military, he would stop and visit with them and say thank you to them. And he continuously went out of his way to praise our current members of the military. He never once thought of himself.
You know, there's a moment in this documentary where he says, and I think we have the words that we can put up on the screen. He says, "I should have said," when he's talking about the presidential election, "I should have said, look, Joe Lieberman is my best friend. We should take him. But I was persuaded by my political advisors that it would be harmful, and that was another mistake that I made." So it sounds as though he's not saying he regrets choosing Sarah Palin. He regrets going with his gut.
The campaign would have been a happier campaign for him. He would have run it in a much different way. I think the outcome would have been similar, quite frankly, but he would have felt better about it himself.
John Weaver, we appreciate you sharing some of your time with us this morning. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, as Democrats approach the midterm elections, we are deep into the season now with so many primaries happening. What's the best strategy to bring in voters? Excite that base or reach out to possibly persuadable Trump voters? My next conversation with two men who are on opposite sides of that conversation.
Why are Subaru Outback owners always smiling? Because they've chosen the industry leader. Subaru Outback holds its value better than any other vehicle in its class according to ALG. Better than RAV4, better than Grand Cherokee, better than Edge. Make every adventure a happy one with Subaru Outback. Get 0% APR financing on the 2018 Subaru Outback.
Ha! That will never work. No, 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 no. Ah, a bulb of light. A flying machine.
Doesn't lose power.
It's amazing.
I like it.
Never gonna happen.
That will never work.
Never gonna happen.
We got whole wheat fusilli, chickpea penne, gluten-free spaghetti. Imagine the possibilities. Huh? Possibilities. You're tough on me. You're really tough on me.
Booking a flight at the last minute doesn't have to be expensive. Just go to Priceline. It's the best place to book a flight a few days before my trip and still save up to 40%. Just tap and go. For the best savings on flights, go to Priceline.
With our laser-measured floor liners and cargo liners, all new Bump Step XL, side window deflectors, and no-drill mud flaps, WeatherTech provides the ultimate protection for your vehicle. Go to WeatherTech.com to order yours today and see our full line of automotive accessories. Nothing protects like WeatherTech.
Welcome to Holiday Inn.
Thank you. Wait, I have something for you.
Every stay is a special stay at Holiday Inn. Save up to 15% when you book early at HolidayInn.com.
Innovation is an ever-evolving journey. It pushes exclusively at Lowe's and Lowe's.com.
Finding the right vacation rental can take hours. Luckily, there's Home to Go. With Home to Go, you can search hundreds of websites and millions of offers. Fast. Home to Go. It's the world's largest vacation rental search engine.
This new Beneful Simple Goodness is amazing meaty morsels, a tender texture with real meat and a blend of peas and carrots I can see. A totally new kind of awesome going on here.
New Beneful Simple Goodness, tender meaty morsels with real ingredients you can see.
So far, since the draft resistance movement began last year, between 2,000 and 3,000 young men have burned their draft cards or returned them to the federal government.
Reward yourself at Bonita Boat Center, now offering Monterey Boats, a world leader in style and innovation with a lifetime warranty and award-winning design, powered by Mercury engines. You've earned your success. Visit Bonita Boat Center, US 41 south of Bonita Beach Road.
Hi, I'm Arda Boyer, owner of Mondo Uomo Fine Menswear. This year, during our 25th anniversary summer celebration, you'll save up to 50% on the quality menswear you've come to love. From top brands like Robert Graham, St. Croix, and Bugatti. When you visit Mondo Uomo here at the Village on Venetian Bay in Naples, you'll see what enjoyable shopping is all about. Remarkable clothing, remarkable service for the remarkable man.
Regulator boats are at
all we do. With 7 offices across the country, let us come meet with you. Call us at 1-800-213-8000.
We are well into the midterm election season, and Democrats have a decision to make. Where will they dedicate their money? How will they dedicate their resources in order to win in November? Double down on getting out and exciting their non-white base, or prioritizing persuading working-class whites who supported President Trump in 2016? I spoke with two men who disagree on the way forward. Steve Phillips, founder of Democracy in Color, a political organization focused on race and politics, and author of the New York Times bestseller, Brown is the New White, How the Demographic Revolution Has Created a New American Majority. And Rui Teixeira, who is senior fellow at the Center for American Progress and co-director of the States of Change, Demographics and Democracy Project. Gentlemen, I'm excited to have this conversation. I've wanted to have it with you two for a while. So thank you for being with us. And this is the right time to have it, especially after this historic win in Georgia by Stacey Abrams. Here's what Abrams said right after her win.
We have an opportunity to turn out voters who haven't voted in recent years. They vote in the presidential election, but not in the gubernatorial election.
Especially in the South, not just because she's a black woman who is now running for governor, but also because she is running in Georgia as a liberal Democrat. She's not reaching out or focusing primarily, I should say, on some of those potentially persuadable conservative Democrats or Trump voters. Do you think that's a mistake?
Well, my view on this is that if you look at the structure of the Georgia electorate, the white part of the electorate is probably going to be at least 60% of voters in this election. And she's going to have to reach a certain number of those. I think it is going to be primarily a mobilization election where she's going to have to rely on a heavy turnout around blacks and young people. But there's also going to be a necessity to get, say, 25% of the white vote, ideally 26 or 27%. So exactly how she's going to run in the general, we'll have to see. I think she ran in a certain way for the primary. It worked very well there. I think as she confronts the general election, she'll probably make some effort to reach out to some at least more moderate whites and try to get them into the fold. Because, again, it's a kind of situation where you don't get a lot of white support in Georgia, but you do need a certain threshold to actually succeed in winning a statewide election.
You wrote this week, what Abrams is proving is that the way to increase voter turnout is by inspiring progressives, not coddling moderates and conservatives.
Level of persuadable or swing voters that there's ever been in the history of recorded polling. And so this notion that there's all these voters who are up for grabs is completely unfounded empirically, and applies in Georgia and applies in the other states. Jimmy Carter's grandson ran in Georgia. He only got 23% of the white vote. So there's a ceiling there. That's what all the data shows. And it doesn't mean that you're against those people. It just means that that's what the data shows. Stacey's upside in Georgia is that there are 1.5 million eligible non-voting people of color. She's quite properly focused on that population as a population that's much more likely to prevail than be able to win over these people who are the unicorns of politics. And that the Heidi Heitkamps and the McCaskells, what people don't understand in those states, even those states that Trump won, a lot of people voted against Trump. And so you still have a mobilization issue. More people voted for Hillary Clinton in Missouri than voted for the Republican candidate for senator in the last midterm election. And so that's why I say we have to inspire the core Democratic constituency, the new American majority of people of color and progressive whites.
Would it not, Steve, be electoral malfeasance not to go after those voters that are persuadable that supported Trump in 2016?
Get more of them. And so to continue to waste all of this money, the Democrats on the progressive side spent $200 million targeting white working class vote, and they had $0 on the independent side, the super PACs, going after African American voter mobilization. And so if the black vote had turned out at the same level it did in 2012, Hillary Clinton would be president. But you hear nothing about that. You don't get invited on television shows to talk about why are we not doing more of the going after the black vote. But everyone wants to talk about the white conservative, white working class vote, and it's just a fool's errand.
Rui, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the lesson of 2016 and Michigan specifically. I mean, Trump won Michigan by 11,000 votes. Hillary Clinton underperformed in Wayne County specifically. If she had performed at the level that Barack Obama performed in 2012, she probably would have won that state. So when you suggest prioritizing, or at least going after in I guess there's a priority, the white working class vote, what about the lesson of Michigan and not exciting the non-white base there that could have delivered a state?
Well, first of all, I really wish this conversation was not typically posed as a sort of A or B thing, either of the 2016 election under different circumstances in our States of Change project, data which have not been challenged, which are about as rigorous as you can get, show definitively that if Clinton had gotten the same level of black turnout in every state as Obama did in 2012, she would not have won the election. She would have carried Michigan, she would have carried Wisconsin, but she would not have carried Pennsylvania. On the other hand, if she had merely reduced the swing against her among white non-college voters by 1/4, in other words, still have a substantial swing against her, but just not quite as large, she would have won the election easily. So I don't think that Steve is correct in saying that all the data show X. I mean, at least it's an arguable point. I think it's absurd for him to claim that all the data is on his side when clearly it is not. Look at Conor Lamb in Pennsylvania. The data are quite clear. He would not have won PA 18 unless he'd moved a certain number of Trump voters over into his column. That is just a fact, and I don't see how Steve can deny it.
Quick, Steve, respond to that, please.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is the census data, if you look, which is the data that we have that's going on. If you look at the census data, if Clinton had performed at the same level Obama did based upon the census data.
Steve, that's not right. We used the census data in our modeling. And I can assure you that is not the case.
The census data shows that in Pennsylvania, more votes than Hillary Clinton did in his district. And so the notion that he had to win over all of these Trump voters is completely fallacious and inaccurate. And the most important point is that this is not this notion about A or B is fine. Yes, we should be trying to do both. But when you're in a campaign where you have limited time and limited money, the question is, what do you prioritize? And that's what my argument has been. The Democrats have prioritized to the exclusion of voters of color, an obsessive focus with hundreds of millions of dollars going after this white working class conservative vote to no positive outcomes.
All right, I've been looking forward to this conversation for some time, and it did not disappoint. Steve Phillips and Rui Teixeira, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take a look at this paper. I know it looks like another grade school paper, right? There's some errors, teachers correcting it. Well, if you take a closer look, yes, it says the White House there. This is a letter from President Trump to Yvonne Mason. She's a retired English composition teacher. And it's full of what she calls, quote, silly mistakes. Now, she received it in response to a letter she'd written about the Parkland, Florida school shooting. Mason did what she always did at school. She corrected the writing. She returned it to the White House. And even she says, listen, the form letter was most likely written by a staff member, not by the president, but the president did sign it. It's been more than
in the spring of '68, you got the most violent period of the entire war.
Awful sick of her. I'll be so glad to go home. I've seen the promised land. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight.
For my parents' generation, King was the dream. And then he's gone.
I am announcing today my candidacy for the presidency of the United States.
Oh, my God. Senator Kennedy has been shot.
This was really the death of hope.
Wallace knew how to get a crowd energized.
I know for what of words you don't know. Police and demonstrators tussling over this busy intersection.
The Graduate is probably the most important movie of the 60s.
I hope to restore respect to the presidency.
One of the most dramatic and consequential years in history.
1968, a 4-part, 2-night CNN original series event, starting tonight at 9.
IT can grow out of control, disrupting business.
And gas? Now, fight both fast. New Tums Chewy Bites with gas relief. All-in-one relief of heartburn and gas. New Tums Chewy Bites with gas relief.
If you have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats psoriasis differently. With Otezla, 75% clearer skin is achievable after just 4 months, with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Tell your doctor if these occur. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Other side effects include upper respiratory tract infection and headache. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
It's time for the semi-annual sale with savings on the new Sleep Number 360 smart bed. It senses your every move. Plus 36-month financing. Ends Memorial Day.
New Super Crispy grown in Idaho frozen fries. Cut from 100% real Idaho potatoes. They bake up crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. New grown in Idaho Super Crispy fries. Mmm, super crispy.
Honda knows you're always on the lookout for something better. So it's no surprise the Honda CR-V was named the 2018 Motor Trend SUV of the Year. It has an interior that's spacious and refined, handling that's smooth and comfortable, and an exterior that speaks for itself. So if you're looking for something truly impressive, look no further. The CR-V. Nothing compares to a Honda.
He's been around the world, but he desires more. He's seen it all. It's always what you think's tough. Find him right there all the time.
With over 40 fully integrated applications, you won't be able to contain your excitement either. From just $1 a day per employee, run your entire business with Zoho One, the operating system for business.
During Aaron's Memorial Day. Or online during Aaron's Memorial Day holiday weekend event.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
Well, we haven't seen First Lady Melania Trump for more than 2 weeks at this point. We know that she spent 5 nights in the hospital for a kidney procedure earlier this month. But Friday, the president did tell reporters she's doing great. Happy to hear that. CNN contributor and author of First Women, The Grace and Power of America's Modern First Ladies, Kate Anderson Brower, with us now. Kate, thank you for being here. What is the holdup in seeing her publicly? Is it her recovery?
Well, I reached out to her spokesperson, Stephanie Grisham, who said that she has been meeting with the staff quite a bit to plan upcoming events. There's the congressional picnic coming up at the end of June. There's also the 4th of July celebration. So she is doing things privately, but I think we have to remember she really prefers not being in the spotlight, and this kidney procedure came right on the heels of the to not be too public, and we might not see her for a little while.
Yeah, I was going to say this could be contributed to being typical of this First Lady. She enjoys her privacy.
She does. I mean, remember when she was in Trump Tower with their son Barron, there were periods of time where we didn't see her at all. And it was kind of a surprise when she tweeted that she had moved into the White House last year. So she is incredibly private, but she is meeting with staff, and she has asked them all to write letters and to get in touch with everyone who's written her notes about her recovery. So she's not completely shirking her responsibilities as First Lady, but I don't think she views the role quite the same way as some of her predecessors did.
How does she see it differently, do you think?
I think that she is, because she's less public and because she didn't necessarily want to be First Lady, and because this is her first time really in the political scene, she's not as prepared as a lot of the other women who came before her, including Laura Bush and Michelle Obama, whose husband was a senator, of course. So she also only has a staff of 10 people. That's a really small staff, less than half of what Michelle Obama had. So I don't think she has the infrastructure in place to do a lot, and I think that says a lot about how she sees the position.
But we do know that she is so enthusiastic about this Be Best initiative, because some of the pictures we were showing when she
Not my thing. Now get up to 50% off our best phones, like the Samsung Galaxy S9 and Google Pixel 2. Only on Verizon.
Picking the right style takes time. One picky customer shouldn't take all your time. Need something printed? The business advisors at Office Depot can assist with exactly what your business needs to grow. Get your coupon for 20% off services, technology, and more at Office Depot and OfficeDepot.com.
Welcome to Holiday Inn.
Thank you.
Wait, I have something for you.
Every stay is a special stay at Holiday Inn. Save up to 15% when you book early at HolidayInn.com.
What if this didn't have to happen? I didn't see it. What if we could go back? What if our car could stop itself?
In IIHS front-end crash prevention testing, nobody beats the Subaru Impreza. Not Toyota, not Honda, not Ford. The Subaru Impreza. More than a car, it's a Subaru.
How does Kumon help kids combat summer learning loss?
There are more threats in today's digital universe. That's why Norton and LifeLock now fight as one to protect you more against threats like malware and identity theft.
It takes the right team to fight threats in today's digital universe. Solo, a Star Wars story, now playing. Get new Norton with LifeLock, starting at $7.99 a month.
Finding the right vacation rental can take hours. Luckily, there's Home to Go. With Home to Go, you can search hundreds of websites and millions of offers. Fast. Whew. Home to Go. It's the world's largest vacation rental search engine.
Melatonin is the body's own sleep ingredient. Only RemFresh uses ion-powered melatonin to deliver up to 7 hours of sleep support. #1 sleep doctor recommended RemFresh, your nightly sleep companion. Available in the natural sleep section at Walmart.
I'm Chris Cuomo. Friends, let's get after it. Forget about the spin. This is about how we got here. Sarah Sanders joining us, Joe Biden, Senator Ted Cruz. Why was that ever on the table? I understand why you don't like the question. He's cleaning your clock. Boy, you guys all sound the same. Facts matter. Just tell the truth.
Cuomo Prime Time, weeknights at 9 Eastern, starting June 4th on road. Start your story. Get a total value of over $11,500 on this Silverado All-Star when you finance with GM Financial. See your Southwest Florida Chevy dealers.
He served his country as an Army captain, an astronaut on the shuttle Columbia, and as one of America's most independent senators, Bill Nelson has delivered for Florida. When some tried to privatize Social Security and Medicare for millions of Floridians, he stopped them. Stopped insurance companies from denying coverage for pre-existing conditions, too. We need a senator who serves all of us, who puts Florida first. That's Bill Nelson. SMP is responsible for the content of this ad.
1968, a two-night event starting tonight on CNN.
So this Tuesday afternoon, Starbucks is scheduled to close its 8,000 plus stores, in the company-owned stores at least, for bias training. When they reopen, the company hopes something like this will be less likely to happen again. Here's the video. Maybe you remember it. The two men in Philadelphia last month who had called, or police were called on them by a Starbucks manager. The company's CEO apologized to the men. A new policy says anyone is allowed to sit in Starbucks and use their bathrooms, whether or not they buy something.
A place where everyone feels welcome.
Helping people see each other fully, completely, respectfully.
So a lot of people say, look, kudos to them for attempting this.
It's
no
something.
doubt about it. It's something. The optics, however, bring a lot of skepticism because people wonder how one day of training could really change what people really want to have changed, and that is the mindset, the way that we see each other. With that said, what is the value of this one day of training?
Well, I think that it's important for everybody to realize that that this is a beginning, and one day of training, I think it's pretty accurate to say one day of training, if that's all they do, is not going to likely have very much impact. I mean, it may impact certain people, but it's more likely to impact people who are inclined in that direction anyway. But one day of training, on the other hand, can be the beginning of something really impactful if they follow up with the right kinds of activities. And so far, relative to their public statements, they seem to be saying that they intend to do that.
You suggest, I read in an article that quoted you, that workers need constant reminders. What do those look like?
Well, I think what we have to out of the unconscious perceptions that we have of each other based on race, in this case, or gender, sexual orientation, or whatever else. And so, of course, it's even the most impactful training you could ever do, at best, puts people in a new direction. And then let's say you do a training and you don't have an incident where you have to deal with the issues that you're dealing with in the training for 3 months. Well, you're not likely to remember it. But if you have things that are embedded into the system, reminders that are embedded into the system, or lists that people follow to do the right thing, that sort of a thing, then it can be much more impactful over the long run.
It becomes habitual. What are
Yes.
those things, though, when they sit down together? Help us understand what those conversations are going to be. What are the things that they are going to be prompted to think about and to see from this point forward?
Well, I can't say definitively what Starbucks is doing, but I can say that in a situation like this, best practice we would suggest are 3 basic streams of conversation. The first is the what. That is, what is unconscious bias? How does it affect us? How does it affect the way we make decisions, especially when we interact with people? That sort of thing. So we want people to get the information they need to get a better understanding of how the mind works. And the research that we have shows that that's the most important thing anytime you're doing some kind of diversity or bias training, that the most impactful thing is to help people understand how they're making decisions, because most people don't wake up in the morning and say, how can I suppress people of another race today? And most of this is very unconscious and habitual behavior. Then the second piece is be more bias resistant.
All right, Howard Ross, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Starbucks on Tuesday, we'll plant the seed. We will look for the fruit. Thanks so much.
Howard, thank you. You know, the oldest surviving Pearl Harbor vet remembers the people that maybe he met, that he fought with on Memorial Day. That's next.
Dear foremothers, your society was led by a woman who governed thousands, commanded armies, yielded to no one. When I found you in my DNA, I learned where my strength comes from. My name is Courtney McKinney, and this is my Ancestry DNA story.
Now with 5 times more detail than other DNA tests. Order your kit at AncestryDNA.com.
If you had any lingering doubts about the performance of Lexus hybrids, this should clear the air. Now comparably priced to the rest of the lineup. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
He's been around.
To contain your excitement either. From just $1 a day per employee, run your entire business with Zoho One, the operating system for business.
Sometimes, bipolar 1 disorder can make you feel unstoppable. But mania, such as unusual changes in your mood, activity, or energy levels, can leave you on shaky ground. Help take control by asking about your treatment options. Vraylar is approved for the acute treatment of manic or mixed episodes of bipolar 1 disorder in adults. Clinical studies showed that Vraylar reduced overall manic symptoms. Vraylar should not be used in elderly patients with dementia due to increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be permanent. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. High cholesterol and weight gain, high blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, decreased white blood cells, which can be fatal, dizziness upon standing, falls, seizures, impaired judgment, heat sensitivity, and trouble swallowing may occur. You're more than just your bipolar 1. Ask your doctor about Vraylar.
Here, babe.
Nasty nighttime heartburn? Try new Alka-Seltzer PM gummies, the only fast, powerful heart.
for fast heartburn relief.
So if you like the idea of surfing for exercise, but you're not sure about braving the waves, this week's Staying Well looks at a surf-inspired fitness on land.
Jump to the left, surf. This is surf-inspired fitness, and it's done on a surfboard with some air buoys underneath to create that fluidity and balance that you feel when you're on water. The surfboard is on top of these air cushions that makes the board rock side to side, and then there's some straps that kind of give it a little better stability.
I'm essentially a wannabe surfer. In the beginning, there's that fear of just balancing and stabilizing on the board, but it doesn't take too long before you kind of get your feel for the board. And so I just find that that's a great core workout.
You can't let your mind wander. You got to focus on what you're doing. My core is stronger. My legs are stronger. My balance is definitely better.
In your feet, we have little muscles called the intrinsic muscles. If you're having to balance all the time and move with the board, then what it'll do is it'll get those muscles to be stronger, which will create a better support system in your entire body.
Move, 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 move.
You can also increase your core stability because you have to move dynamically. If you're an older person that doesn't have great balance, it may serve you better to do some other kind of balance work.
Now I would surf for real. Just make sure that it's in the warm water and not like somewhere cold, and I'll be fine.
Immediately happy.
A city always in transition.
I've never had anything like this anywhere in China.
But forever close to his heart. Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, Hong Kong. Next Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Tired of hiding those ugly toes? Start clearing up that embarrassing toenail bed fungus now with FungiCure. FungiCure kills exposed nail bed fungus. Nothing is stronger without a prescription, which means you don't have to wait to see a doctor to get real, effective medicine. Wouldn't you like to start treating your exposed nail bed fungus now? For visible results in as little as 4 weeks, make your embarrassing nail bed fungus a thing of the past. FungiCure it now. Available at retailers everywhere.
Spring is in full swing, and we're celebrating with the Lincoln Spring Sales Event.
Right now at your main Lincoln of Naples, savings have never been better.
Choose between a new Lincoln MKZ
or MKC for just $259 a month.
That's right, $259.
And now through Memorial Day, all veterans receive an additional $750 bonus cash. So hurry to the Lincoln Spring Sales Event
at your main Lincoln of Naples
or germainlincoln.com.
Fareed Zakaria, GPS, this morning at 10 Eastern on CNN.
The teacher who tackled a school shooter in Indiana is now out of the hospital.
Indiana Congresswoman Susan Brooks says she met Jason
We are so fortunate to have a man like Jason teaching our young ones.
The governor spoke at a vigil held in Noblesville. 13-year-old student Ella Whistler was wounded along with Seaman, and her family says she's in critical but stable condition, and they appreciate all of the well wishes that they've received thus far.
Now, one of the Americans honoring those who died in the line of service this weekend is the oldest survivor of the attack on Pearl Harbor, 106-year-old Ray Chavez.
CNN's Diane Gallagher has more.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
A day that still plays out in the mind of Ray Chavez.
Every day.
76 years later.
I saw all the ships on fire and a terrible smoke screen all through the harbor and covering the ships.
At 106 years old, Chavez is the oldest surviving Pearl Harbor veteran.
It never got to
Remembering, it's what brings Chavez to Washington, D.C. this weekend. Although he did meet President Donald Trump at the White House.
I look forward to it because I didn't vote for him. and I enjoy meeting him. He was pleasant enough to have me right next to him when we were seated.
Chavez traveled across country from San Diego to D.C., stopping in Kansas to refuel and meet with fellow veterans, to attend the 150th Memorial Day ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. He and his family are the guest of Defense Secretary James Mattis. But the Navy veteran says more than all of the pomp and circumstance surrounding his visit, his focus is on those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. It's the act of remembering that is most important this holiday weekend.
National Remembrance Day, because it's very important that the younger generation know and learn at the beginning of war.
Vice President Mike Pence spent part of his Friday at the TAPS Good Grief Camp with a younger generation that knows the consequences of war all too well. All of these children have lost a loved one who served in the armed forces.
A room
I was called to active duty, but chances are they're never.
But the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of Defense surprised Chavez Friday night with a re-enlistment and promotion. Still, the 106-year-old says the purpose of this weekend is to honor the memory of those he served with.
I never will forget that, because I met some real fine young men.
And the sacrifice of the men and women who came after as well. Diane Gallagher, CNN, Atlanta.
Those bells are to honor a soldier who died in World War II. His funeral just now being held nearly 75 years later.
Yeah, in fact, across the country, 6 soldiers killed in action in World War II are finally being laid to rest this Memorial Day weekend. Their names I want to share with you here. Francis Drake, Harvell Moore, Eldon Grimm, Thomas Murphy, Jack Krieger, and Walter Backman. Their remains were just recovered in the South Pacific decades, of course, after they died.
Here in Hamilton, Ohio, you see the crowd here. They paid respect and welcomed home Thomas Murphy. And each veteran is being buried with full military honors.
This is one of those days where it's sad, but as well as joyous.
This morning, and we hope that you make some good memories this weekend as we will all remember all of these men and women.
Inside Politics with John King starts right now.
Is the big summit off?
I've decided to terminate the planned summit in Singapore.
Or maybe back on.
They very much want to do it. We'd like to do it.
Plus, no facts, but a week of tweets about deep state spying.
I think people are going to see a lot of bad things happen.
And the midterm map now includes a chance to make history.
And if we fight, if we push, if we work, we will win.
Inside Politics, the biggest stories sourced by the best reporters now.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm John King. To our viewers in the United States and around the world, thank you for sharing your Sunday. The leaders of North and South Korea meet again and make the case President Trump should reconsider and move ahead with the Singapore nuclear summit. The president says, stay tuned.
It would be a great thing for North Korea. It would be a great thing for South Korea. June 12th in Singapore. That hasn't changed. And it's moving along pretty well. So we'll see what happens.
Plus, more glaring trouble with the truth. The president attacks as phony a newspaper report that accurately quotes a White House briefing. And he keeps saying the FBI illegally spied on his campaign, but offers zero evidence to back it up.
When they look at the documents, I think people are going to see a lot of bad things happen. I hope it's not so, because if it is, there's never been anything like it in the history of our country. But a lot of bad things have happened. We now call it Spygate. You're calling it Spygate. A lot of bad things have happened.
And here's a question. Has the blue wave already crested? Republicans do see a somewhat improved midterm election climate. Democrats say their year of the women will prove the Republicans wrong.
Texas is changing. Texas is changing. Look around you. Look around you. This is what Texas looks like.
What happened tonight is amazing. I couldn't be more honored and more humbled to be standing here tonight as your nominee.
This is our moment, our chance to lift up Georgia. And if we fight, if we push, if we work, we will win.
We're doing very well in terms of the summit with North Korea. Looks like it's going along very well. As you know, there are meetings going on as we speak in a certain location, which I won't name, but you'd like the location. It's not so far away from here. And I think there's a lot of goodwill. I think people want to see if we can get the meeting and get something done.
Now, those optimistic words striking because it was President Trump who just days ago canceled the summit. But North Korea's conciliatory reaction was a surprise, as is this. The leaders of North and South Korea holding a hastily arranged meeting Saturday to try to get the summit back on track. And South Korea's president says Kim again insisted he is prepared to give up his nuclear program.
As a continuation to the Panmunjom Declaration, Chairman Kim once again affirmed his commitment for denuclearization, emphasizing that he will clear the history of war and confrontation and cooperate for peace and prosperity through a successful North Korea-U.S. summit meeting.
It is a remarkable moment. The question now is if you listen to the president just last night and you listen to President Moon, who seems to really giving it up?
Well, those are different things. Yes, I think both sides want the meeting more than they don't. Whether it happens on the 12th of June is an open question. There really is not very much time to make that happen. A U.S. planning delegation that had been scheduled to go today was pulled back, is now again going to go today. I think they're actually already on their way. So they will. So from the White House side, they will at least give it a go to see if they can put it together for the 12th. But on the substance question, really, the United States still only has President Moon of South Korea's word for it that the North Korean president is committed to complete irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And what does that really mean? That is the nut of the problem. And the U.S. negotiators still do not have, in Kim's own words, an exact interpretation of what that means, let alone a schedule for when it
And that's what makes this both so intriguing and so difficult, in the sense that President Moon says he means it. A lot of analysts think, well, why was Kim so conciliatory? After Trump broke it off, people thought this is where North Korea is going to get confrontational again. Long history of that. They didn't. Then he comes back to the table, bear hugs his South Korean counterpart, says, I want to keep doing this. Some people
diplomatic win for them. They don't want to squander that away just because there are some statements that either the president made or that the vice president made or the national security advisor made that got under the skin of the North Koreans. So they're willing to put some of that aside. And if you look at the President Trump's letter to Kim Jong-un on Thursday, one thing that he said was he believed that there was this beautiful dialogue opening up between the President Trump and Kim Jong-un. And he said that is the only dialogue that matters. The other statements from other people within the administration talking about the Libya model, the president saying put all that stuff to the side. He wants to sit down one-on-one with the North Korean leader, even if all of the groundwork hasn't been done. And we heard from a senior official that they didn't believe that the groundwork could be done in time for June 12th, but the president does believe that can be done, and that's why he's going to try to make this happen on June 12th in Singapore.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things of all of last week was Secretary Mike Pompeo's testifying in front of the Senate, where he made very clear that it wasn't the barbs back and forth or the personal attack on Vice President Mike Pence that were the reason that this was called off. It was that they'd lost complete contact with the North Koreans for a period of days, trying to meet, trying to get their advanced teams and their logistical teams to meet, and it had just been completely shut off. I think when you look at the outside dynamics here, whether it's Moon Jae-in over in South Korea, whether it's Mike Pompeo, whether it's the president himself, I think all three have made very clear that they believe they're ready. What are going to make or break this in the end. But my sense of things right now, and I think the sense on Capitol Hill, where I am most days, is that they want the meeting, they want the sit down, they'll figure those pieces out later. And to your point, in terms of we don't know where Kim Jong-un is on denuclearization, Mike Pompeo has made very clear he believed in one-on-one conversations that Kim Jong-un understood where the U.S. was on this position, grasped where the U.S. was on this position, and showed some sense of, okay, we get that, we can get there. And that, all of those things put together is why June 12th is not only on the table, but I think is the preference right now for an administration.
And we still don't know, even though Mike Pompeo knows more than anybody else on the American side from 2 face-to-face meetings with his team, we still don't know much about Kim. To the if we can get there part means, is this young leader willing to walk away from 50 years of his country's history? His grandfather and his father and the nuclear program and a more belligerent posture toward the world is the backbone of the regime, essentially. The process won't matter. If they have a summit and if they make progress, the process won't matter. But the process has been pretty messy. The South Koreans felt blindsided when the president sent that letter, pulling out, didn't give them much of a heads up. If you look at the New Yorker, it says President Trump is a better deal breaker than deal maker. There's been all this controversy that the president, he keeps talking about being the art of the deal president, and things keep blowing up, whether it's the summit that was canceled and now is tentative again, or whatever we want to call it, NAFTA, et cetera. We have
John Bolton had perhaps made this a little bit more apparent that it was going to blow up. The difference between the art of the deal and talking about real estate and this is there actually are nuclear weapons that are on the table, though it was striking on Capitol Hill when this did fall apart, how little surprise there was from Republicans. No one was really sounding the alarm bells, and I think they really thought that this maybe would fall apart and come together a couple more times because they want the president going in there with a strong hand instead of there was concern that he was just going to go in there and wing it. And when something is this important, that's not exactly the best approach.
And there are also people, conservative hawks, conservative voices, who think the president is approaching this backwards in that to deal with the China issue first and then North Korea. Get on a better footing with China on trade issues and on security issues, and then deal with North Korea. Obviously, the president thinks if he can have a summit with North Korea, he might go forward. But here's how the National Review put it. We don't have a North Korea problem. We have a China problem. North Korea is a wild dog. China holds the leash. To change North Korea's behavior, change Chinese behavior first. It is that confrontation between Washington and Beijing which will determine the course of the 21st century. That last sentence, I don't think anyone takes issue with. The China-U.S. relationship is the big question of the next 20, 30, 50 years. But is it fair? There's always the question of, can Xi Jinping say, get in line, Kim Jong-un?
Well, clearly not, because Xi Jinping has been telling Kim Jong-un for 2 years now to passing sanctions at the United Nations and enforcing them. There's always more China can do. And Trump has gone back and forth, swung rather wildly just in the last year over, praising Xi, saying he's doing so much, he's really been tough at the border, he's done this, he's done that, and then 2 weeks later saying China isn't doing enough. Both things are true. And Trump also rightly sees the trade issue with China as linked to the outcome in North Korea. There's a tactical question, as you point out, of whether both things should be pursued at exactly the same time, but they are very much linked.
They are, and as another complication is the president's about to have, if he keeps going with this deal to help the Chinese telecom company ZTE, he's going to have a bipartisan confrontation with the United States Congress, which thinks he's off his rocker helping ZTE at this moment.
Intel committees are not happy about it.
All right, we'll continue to watch that one. Up next for us here, though, the president's strained relationship with the truth. He lashes out at a phony quote in the New York Times. That quote, though, is very real, spoken by a presidential aide in a crowded room, just steps from the Oval Office.
I'm your phone, stuck down here between your seat and your console, playing a little hide and seek. Cold. Warmer. Warmer. Boiling. Jackpot. And if you've got cut rate car insurance, you could be picking up these charges yourself. So get on.
Just go to Priceline. It's the best place to book a flight a few days before my trip and still save up to 40%. Just tap and go. For the best savings on flights, go to Priceline.
See this? It's the fuel that helps power color this stunning and hair this healthy looking every time you color. It's the oil-powered formula in Olea. It propels color deep into hair and without ammonia. It's in the oils. Olea. Brilliant color, visibly healthier hair.
With Western Union, you can send money how you want, whether it's online, on our app, or in store. So you can help them celebrate their big day right now. Send money how you want with Western Union.
I'm about to start the Nature's Bounty Hair, Skin, and Nails Challenge, so my future self will thank me. Thank you. I become a model? Yes.
No.
Start the challenge today and try new tropical citrus flavor with collagen. Nature's Bounty.
Shield annuities from Bright House Financial allow you to take advantage of growth opportunities with a level of protection in down markets, so you can be less concerned about your retirement savings. Talk with your advisor about Shield annuities from Bright House Financial, established by MetLife.
When do you plan on eating it?
Tomorrow.
That one?
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Check out Match right now for free.
I no longer live with the uncertainties of Hep C, wondering, what if? I let go of all those feelings because I am cured with Harvoni.
Harvoni is a revolutionary treatment for the most common type of chronic hepatitis C. It's been prescribed to more than 250,000 people and is proven to cure up to 99% of patients who've had no prior treatment with 12 weeks. Certain patients can be cured with just 8 weeks of Harvoni. Before starting Harvoni, your doctor will test to see if you've ever had hepatitis B, which may flare up and cause serious liver problems during and after Harvoni treatment. Tell your doctor if you've ever had hepatitis B, a liver transplant, other liver or kidney problems, HIV, or any other medical conditions, and about all the medicines you take, including herbal supplements. Taking amiodarone with Harvoni can cause a serious slowing of your heart rate. Common side effects of Harvoni include tiredness, headache, and weakness.
Ready to let go of Hep C?
Ask your Hep C specialist about Harvoni.
Spacious interiors. Powerful potential. Signature toughness.
sad display again this weekend. Whatever your politics, you should want the commander-in-chief to tell the truth when he gives a commencement address to Naval Academy cadets. Well, he didn't. Don't believe me? Take a look at the Twitter feed of Todd Harris in D.C. This is analyst at the Washington National Security think tank, offers a detailed account, it's great to read, of how the president repeatedly twisted the facts in a speech to naval cadets. And then this yesterday, a presidential tweet attacking the New York Times for what the president called phony sources in a story about whether the Singapore summit could be revived and kept on schedule. The quote the president called phony was spoken in the White House briefing room by a senior Trump administration official who was introduced to a room full of reporters by a deputy White House press secretary. Here's the White House announcement that that briefing would take place. And here's the transcript, including the quote the president says is phony and fabricated, right here on paper. Why? Why? Why?
Well, the president, I read The Art of the Deal, recently reread it just to get a better sense of this president, and he talks about the art of truthful hyperbole, going back to that speech that he gave, the commencement address, where he talked about...
Is that a fancy way of saying lying?
That's a fancy way of saying lying. He says that people want to hear that things are the biggest ever. So when he says that this is the first time that service members, troops have gotten a just part of the showmanship of this president, that he wants to sort of show that he's greater than he actually is.
But I'd also like to point to what the president apparently told Leslie Stahl when she asked about why he says things that aren't true about the media. And he says basically to just, long story short, to discredit you. So when you write bad stories about me, no one will believe you. So I think it's part art of the deal, and it's part knowing exactly what you're doing.
Right. And so if you're a Trump supporter and you're laughing at this, or you think we're exaggerating this, as I always say, you have one of these. Check these facts yourself. Go to the @Todd Harrison. He works at a think tank in Washington, D.C. Just clearly lays out, this is to naval cadets. You think the commander-in-chief could tell the truth there. Then there's this phony New York Times. It's not phony at all. It's somebody paid, somebody works, who is loyal to Donald Trump, standing at the White House podium, trying to help the president out, explaining, here's our calculations for the summit. Here's why we could do it. Trying to pull it off by June 12th. That would be hard now because of the delay. Why does he so have this need to attack? If he wants to attack, fine, but to just make stuff up in the attack.
I don't know exactly how this played out at the White House yesterday, but Jack, you're right that he's attacking the media on purpose, clearly, and using the phrase the insult phrase for the New York Times in doing it, but he may not. He should have known that before tweeting, but he may not have. I think it's important to note, too, that during that briefing, a reporter asked why this session couldn't be on the record. There was nothing secret. There was nothing at all sensitive that was being relayed. In fact, it was much of it was kind of logistical questions filling in around the Pompeo testimony and what the president himself had said earlier in the day. And the official's answer to why he couldn't be on the record is that the president has already spoken. Let's let the president's words stand. And, then you have the president coming back and saying that the official and his words don't exist.
Don't exist. Don't exist. And the background trick is all administrations have tried that before. They don't want to step on the president's toes. I don't say I agree with it, but I get it. It's happened. But wasn't a phony person, President. Works for you, right down the hall. But he does this all the time. Here's another one. Put pressure on Democrats to end the horrible law that separates children from their parents once they cross the border into the U.S. Catch and release, lottery and chain migration. He goes on and on and on. Now, previous laws enacted under other administrations, including Democrats, have separated children of immigrants, illegal immigrants, from their parents coming across the border. But this administration just enacted new policies that exacerbate the issue or that continue the issue. That's one. Here's the president talking on Fox News on Thursday about immigration. And again, we know why he wants to talk about the issue, but you could get your facts straight.
We've done a lot of work on the wall. We're doing a lot of work on
and their children. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, has made clear that this was a deliberate effort to disincentivize people coming across the border. So if this is
let me stop to interrupt. Just one. If you don't want your child separated, then don't bring them across the border illegally.
Right.
Jeff Sessions, on the record.
And so if this is a policy designed to help bring border crossings down, which, as you noted, are up right now, they were very low last year, but cyclically they have gone back up again, then own it. I think, and the Attorney General has, and if you talk to Chief of Staff John Kelly, gave an interview talking about this. Homeland Security Department has been talking about this for a couple of weeks right now. If there's rationale behind it, and if you believe this is going to be helpful to you, then own it as the rest of your administration has leading up to this point. Don't blame past laws. And as you know, there are laws that you can quibble with that could have led to this point, but there was a very clear policy shift, which had been debated for months inside the administration. I think that's the perplexing thing right now, same with the border crossings. I do keep going back to the commencement address, though, because there are strategic mistruths or lies or whatever you want to call it that you can tell why the president is doing it. On the idea of number of ships, which was way off in the timeline on it, on the pay raises, which was way off in the timeline of it. It's why. There were elements of the speech which were very good. There are facts there that you can talk about, and why he goes in a different direction is just, I don't get it. And I don't think, to be frank, a lot of his supporters understand it.
In that case, the truth was actually his friend.
Yes.
He just chose to ignore it. Again. Up next, the president says he's the victim of an FBI spy scandal. Should you share his outrage or roll your eyes at just another conspiracy theory? Plus, politicians say the darndest things. You may not know it, but listen here. The Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, quite the comedian. Some of what he's been saying lately about his unusual predicament.
I'd like to hand you a piece of paper with some words on it.
It's not a subpoena, is it? The dictionary defines piling on as joining other people in criticizing someone, usually in an unfair manner. I also have experience with that. So I am definitely against piling on, no matter what definition you use. It's refreshing.
Hold your house in the palm of his hand. Squeeze your old man, not old man. Big Jim got you covered. Great Big Jim, there ain't no other.
So, this is covered, right?
Yes, ma'am. Take care of it for you right now.
Giddy up!
Hi, this is Jamie. We need some help.
It's the Memorial Day sale at Ace.
Get 30% off our top paint brands.
30% off paint now through Monday. And with the Extra Mile promise, get everything you need to paint in one trip or delivery is free. Only at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation?
I'm so sorry. This just is not.
What we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana, the new way to buy a car.
Your enamel is very precious. You want to make sure to protect it. You want to have it for life. Consumption of very acidic foods can wear away your enamel. Your tooth is going to look yellower, more dull. Nobody wants to have yellow-looking teeth. I recommend Pronamel.
Hey, allergy muddlers, are you one sneeze away from being voted out of the carpool? Try Zyrtec. It starts working hard at hour 1 and works twice as hard when you take it again the next day. Stick with Zyrtec and muddle no more.
He's
With over 40 fully integrated applications, you won't be able to contain your excitement either. From just $1 a day per employee, run your entire business with Zoho One, the operating system for business.
What's with him?
He's happy. Your family's finally eating vegetables, thanks to our Bird's Eye Voila skillet meals.
And they only take 15 minutes to make.
Ow!
Oh.
Oh my. Bird's Eye Voila. So veggie good.
I'm Chris Cuomo. Let's get after it. He's cleaning your clock. Or you guys all sound the same.
Just tell the truth. Cuomo Prime Time, weeknights, starting June 4th on CNN.
Network to give small businesses more. Call 1-800-501-6000 today.
Spring is in full swing, and we're celebrating with the Lincoln Spring Sales Event.
Right now at your main Lincoln of Naples, savings have never been better.
Choose between a new Lincoln MKZ
or MKC for just $259 a month.
That's right, $259. And for a limited time, a new Lincoln MKX is just $299 a month.
Only $299. So hurry to the Lincoln Spring Sales Event
at your main Lincoln of Naples
or germainlincoln.com.
1968, a two-night event starting tonight on CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
Welcome back. The president might want to be a little more careful when pushing his next eye-popping conspiracy theory. Talk of an FBI spying operation on his campaign got the president so angry and so animated that he forced the Justice Department to brief lawmakers on FBI tactics. Now, the initial plan was for just 2 House Republicans to get the inside scoop.
Or otherwise failed to follow appropriate procedures and protocols.
Now, Trump allies might discount that because they don't think much of the Democrat Adam Schiff, but the Republican Speaker of the House and the Republican Senate Majority Leader were also in the room.
Were you surprised with what you learned?
Nothing particularly surprising. But again, it was classified, so there's no real report I can get to you.
And to translate Leader McConnell, in that and other interviews, he went on to say he continues to support Robert Mueller, believes that's the best way to do this. If he had been shown evidence of illegal, improper, reckless FBI spying as part of the special counsel investigation, that's not what he would have said after. So did the president step on his own story here?
I mean, I think the president's story is that he wants to sow confusion and discord surrounding the investigation in general, and he sees an opportunity here. He told a friend as much last week that he's deliberately using the word spy, which is an incorrect description of the person they're talking about. The person was an FBI informant, a long-standing informant in other cases. And who was employed to try to find out in the wake of the hack that was revealed just on the eve of the Democratic National Convention in 2016.
Right, it's much easier to say Spygate, and again, the president will just show you quickly. He has a history of doing this, of exaggerating or sometimes just making stuff up. But there's a spy, Obama had his wires tapped. Obama improperly unmasked Trump aides. There's a secret society inside the FBI, the president says, conspiring against him, including people he appointed in the Justice Department. And the Steele dossier triggered the Russia probe, which it did not.
This all has a very common theme, and it's about President Trump trying to, again, muddy the waters about the Mueller investigation and make himself the victim of this elaborate plot by the deep state, and who are just trying to take away his election win. That's not what's happening here, but the lengths to which he will go, including potentially exposing an FBI informant, which you saw some of the intelligence forces coming out saying, this is very dangerous what you're doing here. He doesn't care because it's all about number one in this situation.
The president's attacks, a potential chilling effect, nothing to do with the investigation. The president, I mean, if you're thinking of cooperating with the FBI on some other sensitive matter that could end up being involved in the political environment, number one, the president does this as a spy. Number two, the president's chief of staff and his White House counsel, one of his White House lawyers, show up at the beginning of this meeting where the Justice Department, the FBI, is going to share with lawmakers some of their tactics and how they got to the point of having this informant. Why?
I talked to a lot of Republican aides who kind of walked through how Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Richard Burr worked very hard behind the scenes to make sure there was a second briefing, to make sure Democrats would be there, to basically make the point that this isn't a game, this isn't some effort to muddle things. This is how it's supposed to work with bipartisanship. And they felt that that was completely undercut by John Kelly and Emmett Flood coming. Now, granted, stayed for just a minute, made some brief remarks, I'm told, which were rather awkward in both rooms at the time. But just the idea, why the appearance of it? Why would you try and undercut something that what Republicans on the Hill were trying to do was make it appear legitimate for the president?
Well, that adult supervision is overdue by those Republicans, and let's hope it continues because it has been missing at key points during some of these investigations. Another great point, stay with us on the next State of the Union up next. Rudy Giuliani, the president's top lawyer, will be on. In the course of recent days, he said Tuesday, if they said you have to do it now, the answer would be no. That's an interview between the president and the special counsel. I guess I'd rather do the interview, he said Wednesday. It gets it over with. It makes my client happy. On Thursday, I would not like to talk to Mueller at all. I don't see what you gain from that. Next hour, maybe the real Rudy Giuliani. Maybe do we get a final answer?
Well, we'll see. That's what we've heard from the president multiple times. We'll see what happens. Saying that that's what will depend. That's what will let them decide whether or not to have this interview.
I'm old enough to remember Rudy Giuliani's time as a federal prosecutor in New York. He got a lot of fame and attention for it. I don't think he shared sensitive information with the people and the people related to or people allies of the people who are under investigation during the investigation. I don't think that happened.
Can we just add on the bottom line here? The Justice Department Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, is looking into all of this, in part because of the president's demand. There will be answers. There will be a full-fledged report. There's not a lot of people who question Michael Horowitz or the reports that he's put out or the investigations that he's been a part of. It's coming.
Yet.
All of that is coming
at some
point.
That's an established government process.
Right.
That's not,
right. That's what we're against.
Yeah. Established government process. All right, up next for us here, election year economics. Republicans want credit for that tax cut that put more money in your pocket. They don't want blame now that rising gas prices are taking some of it back. First, though, as we go to break, a solemn look here, preparations at Arlington National Cemetery as the country honors its fallen service members. Yes, you may have a barbecue today. Yes, you may have a long weekend. Please remember why we mark Memorial Day.
What's with him?
He's happy. Your family's finally eating vegetables, thanks to our Bird's Eye Voila skillet meat.
Moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis. Month after month, the clock is ticking on irreversible joint damage. Ongoing pain and stiffness are signs of joint erosion. Humira can help stop the clock. Prescribed for 15 years, Humira targets and blocks the source of inflammation that contributes to joint pain and irreversible damage.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Help stop the clock on further irreversible joint damage. Talk to your rheumatologist. Right here, right now. Humira.
It's the Jeep Celebration event. Hurry in to celebrate the reimagined 2019 Jeep Cherokee. Wherever your imagination takes you, the Jeep Cherokee was made to get you there with state-of-the-art technology and impressive fuel economy. Hurry in now and for a limited time get an additional $500 bonus cash on select 2018 models at the Jeep Celebration event. Or get 0% APR financing for 60 months plus $1,000 bonus cash.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration. This may cause you to feel dizzy, faint, or lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, and trouble breathing. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of ketoacidosis or an allergic reaction. Symptoms of an allergic reaction include rash, swelling, and difficulty breathing or swallowing. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Other side effects are sudden kidney problems, genital yeast infections, increased bad cholesterol, and urinary tract infections, which may be serious. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you have any medical conditions.
What do you think? I think it's time to think about Jardiance. Ask your doctor about Jardiance and get to the heart of what matters.
Being a good father is important to me. So being diagnosed with advanced non-small cell lung cancer made me think of all the things that I wanted to teach my kids.
Another true story with Keytruda.
My doctor said I could start on Keytruda, so I did. With each scan, things just got better.
In a clinical study, Keytruda offered patients a longer life than chemotherapy, and it could be your first treatment. Keytruda is for adults with non-small cell lung cancer that has spread. to death. See your doctor right away if you experience new or worsening cough, chest pain, shortness of breath, diarrhea, severe stomach pain or tenderness, nausea or vomiting, rapid heartbeat, increased hunger or thirst, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in urine, changes in eyesight, muscle pain or weakness, joint pain, rash, itching or flushing, as this may keep these problems from becoming more serious. These are not all the possible side effects of Keytruda. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems, or if you've had an organ transplant, or lung, breathing, or liver problems.
Before, I'd think of the stuff I might miss. But now with Keytruda, we have hope.
Living longer is possible. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. Ask your doctor about Keytruda.
You guys don't happen to know a good handyman, do you?
Maybe
Outstanding. Could you possibly do a background check on them?
Also, get a bunch of quotes.
Then book an appointment for, say, Tuesday?
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So to find and book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask HomeAdvisor.
This holiday weekend, first and foremost, a tribute to the fallen. But for many Americans, it's also a gateway to summer. And those getting behind the wheel will be on a test drive of sorts for the election year politics of rising prices at the pump. Let's take a look at the numbers. We go back several years here. Gas, $1.83 a gallon on average when Barack Obama was sworn in as president. $2.32 a gallon. During the Trump presidency, from $2.32 on Inauguration Day to right around $3 now. Now, this is cyclical, a number of factors, but we're a few months away from a midterm election. Republicans are worried that gets in the way of their midterm message. Their big tax cut is what they want to talk about. They say it's helping the economy. It put $135 billion back in the pockets of Americans. The problem is, if gas prices stay right where they are now through the end of the year, about 30% of that money is going to come out of your pocket and go to the gas pump. Let's look at it this way. The average family got a tax cut of just shy of $1,100. Again, by paying more at the pump, if prices stay right where they are today through the end of the year, remember your $1,100? It shrinks a little bit right there as you go through the summer and into the fall. Republicans are worried that will muddle their midterm message of tax cuts good, the economy's doing great, keep us in power. And listen to the president here. Republicans were already a little bit worried about the muddled part.
Your vote in 2018 is every bit as important as your vote in 2016. Although I'm not sure I really believe that, but you know. I don't know who the hell wrote that line. I'm not sure. But it's still important.
This midterm election is healthcare. Healthcare costs, we're going to learn about the premiums in October right before the elections, and all the indications are those prices are also going up pretty significantly, and President Trump is going to get a lot of blame for that because of some of the actions he's taken to sort of take the hammer to Obamacare, saying that Obamacare is dead and gutting the individual mandate. If healthcare costs go up significantly, that could further eat into the tax cuts that people were benefiting from this year by increasing their costs, not only at the gas pump, but also on their health insurance.
And so it's an important point that we're going to learn a lot between now on a number of issues, gas prices, health care, other policy issues between now and November. So come. Stacey Abrams says she's going to prove Karl Rove and others wrong.
I think that we are a blue state. We're just a little confused. We haven't had candidates who have done the work of really lifting up every voice. We're not going to win trying to put together the old guard coalition. We don't have to pivot to conservative values to win in Georgia. We just have to speak about our own values and have bold and detailed plans about how we're going to make it work.
I have no idea if she's right, but what a fascinating test of the current mood in American politics. An African-American progressive woman trying to make history. She would be the first black woman governor in the country, period. Can she do it in Georgia?
It depends on who. So one of her big pushes is voter registration, getting people who've never been registered to vote. And, you know, I think people are looking at what happened with Doug Jones. African-Americans came out to vote. African-American women came out to vote. And instead of focusing on the suburban college-educated whites who went to Trump, went to Republicans, and could potentially be Democrats again, they're saying, no. We're going to get other people to turn out. We're not going to be worried about you.
And on the flip side of that is you see the progressive energy, the president talking more and more about immigration, and the president talking here after the NFL changed its policy of victory for Trump, players cannot kneel on the field or they will be fined during the national anthem. The president said this.
I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but still.
Says maybe you shouldn't be in the country. If you disagree with the President of the United States, if you want to exercise your First Amendment rights, perhaps our most cherished gift, maybe you shouldn't be in the country. It's a great window into how he thinks.
Well, he sees it as base politics, but it is also a window into part of what he thinks. But there's a Supreme Court case on this, right? You don't have to stand for
also,
the.
This isn't about patriotism. We really should say that. This is about protest. I mean, the whole thing about kneeling was about human rights. It wasn't about. patriotism.
We'll stay with this one as well. Our reporters share from their notebooks next, including one senator scolding his colleagues for being afraid to take on a big lobby.
I'm about to start the Nature's Bounty Hair, Skin, and Nails Challenge, so my future self will thank me. Thank you. I become a model?
No.
Start the challenge today and try new tropical citrus flavor with collagen. Nature's Bounty.
Sometimes a day at the ballpark is more than just a day at the ballpark.
All military members stand and be recognized.
Sometimes fans cheer for those who wear
Salonpas. We're the world leader in medicinal pain patches.
Our latest innovation, Salonpas Lidocaine, using hydrogel-based technology with the maximum strength lidocaine
you can buy without a prescription.
Salonpas Lidocaine. Nothing is proven stronger or more effective against pain.
Mom, Dad, hi. I had a very minor fender bender tonight in an unreasonably narrow fast food drive-thru lane. But what a powerful life lesson. And don't worry, I have everything handled. I already spoke to our Allstate agent, and I know that we have accident forgiveness, which is so smart on your guys' part. Like the fact that they'll just forgive you.
4 weeks without the car.
Okay, yep, good night.
With accident forgiveness, your rates won't go up just because of an accident. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
Yeah, it might be nice to meet someone special, but I'm just so busy right now.
Got time for coffee? Then you've got time for Our Time. It only takes a few minutes to take a look on Our Time, the fastest growing dating site for people over 50.
Shield annuities from Bright House Financial allow you to take advantage of growth opportunities with a level of protection in down markets, so you can be less concerned about your retirement savings. Talk with your advisor about Shield annuities from Bright House Financial, established by MetLife.
We believe in a fit.
And demonstrators tussling all over this busy intersection on this, the night of the presidential nominations at this Democratic convention.
Friends don't let friends buy a used car when they can buy a new Mitsubishi for less. Like a new 2018 Outlander Sport starting at only $16,990. That's just $119 per month. Get pre-qualified online at Bonita Springs and Fort Myers Mitsubishi.com.
So we're going to be talking about cars today.
Cool.
If you were building the perfect car, which 3 features here would you choose?
I'm going turbo.
Okay.
I want a reliable car. Safety. Got to think about the babies.
Fuel efficiency.
Take them all. Put them all in one car, right? Could you do that?
Actually, you can.
Whoa.
This is the Chevy Malibu.
Wow, that's nice.
It's the Chevy Memorial Day sales event. Current GM lessees get over $4,700 total cash allowance on this Malibu. See your Southwest Florida Chevy dealers.
Friends don't let friends buy a used car when they can buy a new Mitsubishi for less, like the all-new 2018 Eclipse Cross. This hot new model is packed with technology, and it starts at only $19,990 or just $119 per month at Fort Myers and Bonita Springs Mitsubishi.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Closed captioning brought to you by
Ahead of the big political news just around the corner. Ann Gearon?
So something that isn't getting a lot of attention in the United States in the last couple of weeks is that the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, has been hospitalized 3 times. He remains hospitalized. He was supposed to be released today. The last word this morning is that he's remaining in the hospital. He has a lung infection. He's 82. He's a heavy smoker. There's a lot of discussion in the Mideast about what happens if he dies or steps aside. There's no real succession plan. He has no vice president. This matters because he is committed to negotiations with Israel. He's pledged to a 2-state solution. If he is not in the picture, whoever succeeds him might not be committed to those same things, and U.S. leverage for a peace deal declines.
Yet another obstacle, long list of obstacles. Phil?
So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has taken to telling reporters don't buy any non-refundable tickets for the month of August when Congress is supposed to be on recess. Now, the idea of threatening the August recess is something historically that always occurs but never actually comes to fruition. I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. This will happen this time around. At least a couple of weeks, I'm told, will be canceled. And the reasons why are a couple. There's a young group, new group of Republicans who have been urging this to occur. They're going to get their way, but not necessarily because of them, but because of the president. Right now, as one Republican lawmaker told me last week, there is peace in our time between the Senate Republicans and the president. The president wants them to use at least a couple of weeks in August. Mitch McConnell's calculation is, let's just keep him happy. Things are good right now. But I would also note that maybe those couple of weeks will help clear a pathway, because you talk to any Republican, even those who aren't super happy about staying in August, and there are quite a few, the idea of a shutdown at the end of September in the middle of a midterm is a pure nightmare.
You do know you just put could be positive and Congress in the same sentence.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Tolu?
President Trump on Thursday is going to be going down to Dallas for a fundraiser. He's on this long and very lucrative fundraising swing, making a lot of money for the RNC, but this is actually leading to a little bit of controversy. Bloomberg News and the Washington Post have obtained some solicitations that have gone out to Chinese investors, inviting them to come to this fundraiser, pay $150,000 to have a handshake and a photo with the president. Now, the RNC says they know nothing about this. Obviously, it's illegal to raise money from foreign nationals as part of a political campaign. But this is something that's happening while the president is involved in these negotiations with China over trade. And the RNC says they know nothing about why solicitations are going out to Chinese investors to speak to the president during this very tense time when it comes to U.S.-China relations. So it's just another example of ethical concerns surrounding the president when it comes to making, raising funds and politics and policy all being mixed together. We've seen a lot of that with this president.
Medical Association. The lobby is so powerful, and they've been so successful in keeping this from law. Senator Joe Manchin said last week that lawmakers are actually afraid of how powerful they are. Now, the American Medical Association says that prescriptions should be between their doctors and their patients. All that said, this just highlights again how difficult and complicated it is to really solve this problem, the opioid problem in America.
If there's one thing maybe they could come together for an election year, dealing with that would be, let's see, hopeful. I'll close with this. The fire directed at the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is now bipartisan. After months of praising him for standing up to the president, some Democrats are now complaining he's bowing to Oval Office pressure and irresponsibly, they say, sharing investigative details that are supposed to be kept secret. Now, we all know Rosenstein for a year has been a piñata for Trump allies and for the president himself. That because of his steadfast support of the special counsel, Robert Mueller. It is a spotlight the Justice Department veteran does not want and does not cherish. But a longtime friend describes him as, quote, clearly under stress, but remarkably calm. Still quoting, Rod is rooted in 2 things, the friend says, the process and the law. And he says he is okay. We'll see if that lasts through the summer. That's it for Inside Politics. Again, thank you.
Trip or delivery is free, only at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Spacious interiors. Powerful potential. Signature toughness. And one more thing. The world comes with it. The new, reimagined 2019 Jeep Cherokee.
He's been around the world, but he desires more. He's seen it all. It's always what you think's tough. Find out right there all the time.
With over 40 fully integrated applications, you won't be able to contain your excitement either. From just $1 a day per employee, run your entire business with Zoho One, the operating system for business.
When you're particular, you want things done right. That's why we test all of our paints and stains for months, or even years. We dedicate 100 off Regal Select interior and exterior paint at participating Benjamin Moore retailers.
Let's get started. Show of hands. Who wants customizable options chains? Ones that make it fast and easy to analyze and take action. How about some of the lowest options fees? Are you raising your hand? Good. And it's time for Power E-Trade, the platform price and service that gives you the edge you need. All right, one quick game of rock, paper, scissors. 1, 2, 3, go. E-Trade, the original place to invest online.
Your enamel is very precious. You want to make sure to protect it. You want to have it for life. Consumption of very acidic foods can wear away your enamel. Your tooth is going to look yellower, more dull. Nobody wants to have yellow-looking teeth. I recommend Pronamel toothpaste because it helps protect and strengthen your enamel. It's going to make them more resistant to the acid erosion so that your teeth are not bothering you and you feel good about your smile. It's such a wonderful combination. It's pro-enamel. It's good for your enamel. It's a positive thing.
Hey, allergy muddlers, are you one sneeze away from being voted out of the carpool? Try Zyrtec. It starts working hard at hour 1 and works twice as hard when you take it again the next day. Stick with Zyrtec and muddle no more.
The president says there was a spy in his...
Gig Speed Network to give small businesses more. Call 1-800-501-6000 today.
Tamiami Hyundai invites you to celebrate Memorial Day with a deal maker. Pick your favorite SUV for under $300 a month with zero down. All new Konas $259 a month, new Tucson's only $275 a month, and new Santa Fe Sports just $285 a month, including America's best warranty. And you put nothing down, unlike those other dealers that require thousands down. It's our Memorial Day sale.
Tamiami Hyundai, our name means a great deal.
TamiamiHyundai.com.
Take us with you. Try CNN on Sirius XM 116 right now for free.
Special request. President Trump's legal team wants its own briefing after lawmakers say they learned nothing new on an FBI confidential source.
What I want.
But he just canceled could still be on.
It's moving along very nicely. So we're looking at June 12th
in Singapore.
Who's playing whom? Former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper weighs in. And finger-pointing. President Trump is passing the blame for separating immigrant families at the border, as Democrats call the president's policies inhumane.
If you cross the border unlawfully, then we will prosecute you. It's that simple.
While hundreds of migrant children are missing.
Hello, I'm Dana Bash in for Jake Tapper in Washington, where the State of our Union is playing games. President Trump had a busy Saturday night appearing in the Oval Office to herald the release of an American prisoner from Venezuela and indicating the historic summit with North Korea might not be canceled after all.
It's moving along very nicely. So we're looking at June 12th in Singapore. That hasn't changed. And it's moving along pretty well.
As the world watches the diplomatic whiplash on North Korea, the president also Saturday, the president called the probe rigged and, despite presenting no evidence, again claimed government spies were in his campaign. Here's what he tweeted. With spies, or informants, as the Democrats like to call them because it sounds less sinister, but it's not, all over my campaign, even from an early date, why didn't the crooked highest levels of the FBI or quote-unquote justice contact me to tell me of the phony Russia problem? This, as his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says the president's legal team wants its own briefing on the classified information presented to lawmakers. Let's get straight to the president's lawyer, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Let's start right there. The FBI confidential source is directly connected to this ongoing investigation into the president's campaign. Doesn't it create an appearance that the White House is interfering with this investigation?
I don't see that, Dana. I think that the White House has every right to know, the president has every right to know as commander-in-chief. After all, the investigation, as the Democrats said, revealed nothing new. So there's nothing, to us, that means exculpatory. Because the new would be if something turned up that was a surprise. So it should be very easy to brief us.
He is, he was the head of and the candidate for a campaign of which this investigation is taking place.
That's another reason he should know. I mean,
how is that legit for him to know about an investigation of him and his campaign? Explain that. Because
it's over, and it revealed nothing new. So then he has a right to know about it, both as a candidate, I mean, as the candidate back then, now as the president. He has a right to know about it in order to figure out what does it mean to this investigation. All that it means is an investigation that we thought was rigged from the very beginning. It never should have started.
But if you're saying
there was no evidence of collusion.
If you're saying it's over, back to the confidential source, then are you saying here this morning that you feel comfortable that there was no spy, as you and the president call this person?
Well, I don't, because I see contradictions. I see Clapper saying that there was a spy, but he was spying on the Russian end. But spying on the Russian end, if they thought there was collusion, meant spying on the president's campaign. Well, I'd like to know who he is,
to be clear,
and what he found out.
James Clapper said that he didn't know anything about it, and he was using question. You are somebody who made your name as U.S. Attorney in New York. You had a reputation for prosecuting crime as mayor, upholding the rule of law. If somebody connected to one of your investigations asked you for information about a confidential source, you wouldn't stand for it.
Of course, I wouldn't give them the name. If I thought that that information would help induce a guilty plea or cooperation, I would lay out for the lawyers or let them see the evidence. Very, very often prosecutors lay out the evidence pre-indictment in order to end the case. They say, look at this, listen to the tape recording, listen to the information. Hey, every once in a while they'll give up a confidential source if the person's being protected. So the name here has already been put out there. You and I don't know if it's true. But if it is true and it's dangerous to this man, he better be protected already. I don't believe he's being protected. Says to me that maybe the FBI and the Justice Department is being a little hypocritical here.
Why is that?
Well, they said he can't be revealed because it's dangerous. Now he's been revealed, Wall Street Journal, several other newspapers. If that man is the man, he better be protected. I'm not sure, but I hear he's not. So what's going on?
Mr. Mayor, I want to just ask point blank, will the president sit down with Robert Mueller?
To getting the investigation over with another way. But he is adamant in wanting to do it.
He, the president.
We have the president. But we're more convinced as we see it that this is a rigged investigation. Now we have this whole new Spygate thing thrown on top of it.
But why?
On top of already very legitimate questions.
How is there evidence that it's rigged? I just want to go through, because I know you use this term a lot, and obviously so does the president. This investigation has already brought charges against 22 people and entities, including 13 Russians who have been indicted for trying to change the outcome of the election. So how is it a rigged investigation when they're not even close to being done and they already have this in their pocket?
Well, because first of all, there are two different investigations, right? The counterintelligence investigation is now over for over a year, and they weren't disclosing it to anybody. Immediately, that raises questions in my mind. Why not? I think why not? Because it clears the president. Then you get the Comey thing, which is a leak of a confidential memo, which is illegal for an FBI official to do, and that becomes the basis for appointing Mueller. I'm not saying Mueller is illegitimate. I'm saying the base.
Mueller was brought on to the scene.
But it has to inform the decision to appoint Mueller. Either it's evidence or not. And if it's not, it goes along with what they found already, which is no collusion with the Russians.
It might have informed it, but it wasn't the beginning. I just want to point one other thing out, because I know that you and the president have talked about that as well, that even the Republicans in the House, when they did their report, they said that the main reason that this probe was launched was because of George Papadopoulos, who was on the President's Foreign Policy Council, and an encounter he had with somebody in Australia, not because of this confidential informant. This is from the Republicans in the House.
I think actually the explanation for Mueller is mainly Comey. Comey said he wanted an independent counsel. Comey said he was going to orchestrate one. Comey wrote a memo and leaked it illegally through a professor. Hence, we have Mueller. Illegal. No basis. Now, whatever the Spygate thing is, we're just learning about that now. I wouldn't come to any definitive conclusions on that. And Papadopoulos was part of that whole Spygate thing as well. So it kind of gets all intertwined. But the two indictments that you point out are really pretty questionable. Manafort, before Judge Ellis, maybe no authority for that indictment. That'd be extraordinary. That would ruin the whole investigation. Second, the Russians. That's a pretty tells me they don't have Don thing because they would have used it already, and they wouldn't be off on collusion. They wouldn't be off on Manafort. They wouldn't be off on Cohen. You got a good case, man, you go right to it. Against the President of the United States, you got something and you don't start charging it? Come on.
Well, maybe not necessarily against the president himself, but people in his orbit. You're confident that there was no collusion?
I can't be confident about my client. I mean, am I confident because I was in that campaign at a very intimate level? Nobody talked about Russians. Nobody knew about Russians. This came as a surprise to me, to the president, and to the top 4 or 5 people around him. Now, you go out to the outer orbit. How do I know what's going on? But I don't think that would matter. You can't, this is collusion with a guy 50 rungs down on the campaign. Not that I'm saying it happened, but if it did, I don't know what that means.
Mr. Mayor, I want you to take a look at... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I got the point.
I want you to take a look at this CNN survey. When asked whether President Trump should testify in the Mueller investigation, only 39% of Republicans say yes. That's down 15 points in less than 6 weeks. Now, this is not an...
I mean, so we have a briefing. We got a briefing. We've got Congress involved. We didn't do that. They're doing it. I didn't know that the Cohen thing. Cohen's now 2 months old, 3 months old. I came into it after Cohen. I didn't know the Cohen thing would result in nothing involving the president, or so far has. And all these things keep falling apart. I didn't know that Judge Ellis. Let me just finish that point. I didn't know that Judge Ellis was going to question the legitimacy of the indictment by the Mueller team.
The president, the president's allies on Capitol Hill.
They are all largely very, very committed Democrats.
Okay, the president's allies on Capitol Hill, and then it was picked up by the president in his tweets and by you as well, have been seizing on this confidential source. You call it Spygate, and without giving evidence that you really think it's there. That has no question helped erode public confidence in the investigation, which, you're a lawyer, but you're also an experienced Paul. You know what you're doing. Is that fair to say?
I hope I know what I'm doing. I have a birthday tomorrow, so I think I know what I'm doing.
No, but I mean that this is an intentional strategy to undermine the investigation, knowing that the investigators, the special counsel, it's their policy not to talk, but you are very free to and are very aggressive about doing so.
Are going to be informed a lot by their constituents. So our jury is as it should be, is the American people. And the American people, yes, are Republicans, largely, independents, pretty substantially, and even some Democrats now question the legitimacy of it. The Democrats, I suggest from their own self-interest, this is not a good issue to go into the congressional elections.
That is something that you and the Democratic leader, Nancy Pelosi, actually agree on. We're going to leave that for a second. We're going to have to take a quick break. We have a lot more to discuss, including
Thank you, Dana.
a potential interview with the special counsel, Robert Mueller. Will the president do that interview? Stay right with us, Mr. Mayor. We're going to ask you that after the break.
All right.
State of the Union, brought to you by Dell Small Business. Call an advisor today at 877-BUY-DELL.
Whoever came up with the term small business never owned a business. There's nothing small about it. Are your hours small? What about your reputation? Is that small? When you own your own thing, it's huge. Your partnerships, even bigger. With Dell Small Business Technology Advisors, you'll get the one-on-one partnership you need to grow your business. Because the only one who decides how big your business can be is you. The Dell Vostro 15 laptop with 7th Gen Intel Core processors.
All right, I brought in new Max Protein to give you the
I'm about to start the Nature's Bounty Hair, Skin, and Nails Challenge, so my future self will thank me. Thank you. I become a model? Yes.
No.
Start the challenge today and try new tropical citrus flavor with collagen. Nature's Bounty.
What you don't see can hurt you. If you just monitor your credit, you can miss some identity theft threats. LifeLock now includes Norton to help protect you from even more threats. Join now at LifeLock.com.
This car is literally my baby, which is why I use Armor All Ultra Shine wash wipes. They effectively remove dirt, dust, and grime with no water.
That car is in tip-top shape.
We are both in tip-top shape. Armor All. It's easy to look good.
We live and die on our reporting.
Would it be fair to characterize that story as wrong?
Yes.
We went back to our sources. We're confident in the story.
We have a president of the United States who is under federal investigation.
Right, I mean, I hate you. That is a story.
The Fourth Estate. New series, now streaming, only on Showtime.
Mom, Dad, hi. I had a very minor fender bender tonight in an unreasonably narrow fast food drive-thru lane.
Just because of an accident. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
What's the value of capital? What's critical thinking worth? A basketball costs $14. What's team spirit worth? What's it worth to talk to your mom? What's the value of a walk in the woods? The value of capital is to create not just wealth, but things that matter. Morgan Stanley.
The sun is shining, so why venge in here when you can do it out there? With this clever little app called Audible, you can listen to the stories you love while doing the things you love outside. Everyone's doing it. She's binging, they're binging, and so is he. So put on your headphones, turn on Audible, and binge better.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
Mesothelioma, it's all we do. With 7 offices across the country, let us come meet with you. Call us at 1-800-213-8000.
And obstruction. The collusion part, we're pretty comfortable with because there has been none. The obstruction part, I'm not as comfortable with. I'm not. The president's fine with it. He's innocent. I'm not comfortable because it's a matter of interpretation, not just hard and fast, true, not true. So if you interpret his comment about firing Mueller, Comey, no discussion of firing Mueller, by the way. If you interpret that as obstructing the investigation as opposed to removing a guy who was doing a bad job on the recommendation in part of Rosenstein, but you see it as obstructing the investigation, then you can say it's obstruction. And then you can say it's perjury, which is even easier for them, which is where I think if they're sneaky, they're going. I don't believe Bob is. But remember, those guys were President Hillary Clinton's victory dinner. They were present in some of the prior investigations.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Mayor, you know, Robert Mueller is a
guys.
Republican. That's a little bit of a red herring when you.
Attorneys We're basically
But Robert Mueller is the
no
special counsel, and he's in charge of this. Would you? So are you saying that?
Good, which is why we say it had. Which is why we have pause, because if I were looking at 13 down the middle people, men and women, I'd say fine.
Okay,
let's
get back to the interview.
Party.
Let's get back to the interview, because that's the key
Sure.
question here. You mentioned the second topic, questions about obstruction. Are you, as the president's lawyer, willing to allow him to sit down and answer questions about that? About firing James Comey?
Well, sure, I'd be willing. All of that depends on how comfortable we are with their having an open mind and not having interpreted it wrongly already. If we have an open mind, we would recommend it to the president. Since the president is inclined to do it, I would assume.
Trump was more likely to sit down with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un than special counsel Robert Mueller. So does the president see Robert Mueller as a bigger threat than Kim Jong-un?
No. In the case of Kim Jong-un, he's got all of his advisors recommending it, except, hey, they pulled out originally, right? No, when he was talking about meeting us on the, how about that, meeting us on the nuclear battlefield. And people expect me to intrude with this silliness. I can't do that. Now, the guy has made a remarkable turnaround. He not only wants to meet, he tells President Moon that he's considering denuclearization of the entire peninsula. Wow. I mean, that's Nobel Prize stuff.
Well, the president certainly hopes so. But, you know, you're talking about North Korea. I just have to ask because you brought it up.
Because, you know, it depends on, our timing is driven greatly by, for example, if they put this thing on, and probably have to do it in the next 2 days, we literally can't get much done until after the 12th, until he comes back from Singapore. Nor would anybody want us to. And if not, we got a good span of time there, which we were counting on for making our decision on interview, and then moving forward with the rest of our strategy.
So you're not advising the president on foreign policy. That's not part of your purview.
Oh, no. I'm not. I used to in my old role as his policy advisor, but I'm not now.
Okay. Let me ask you.
I hear it to the extent that it affects our timing.
Got it. Sources told CNN on Friday that President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, you mentioned him earlier, that he got yet another consulting contract with the business partner of a Russian oligarch after meeting with him in Trump Tower during the transition. You know, we've seen several stories like this. Was the president okay with Michael Cohen essentially selling access to him?
Well, first of all, most importantly, the president's not involved. The president had no knowledge of any of these. Remember, the first one that came out was the one involving some other Russian company that turns out not to be. The president didn't know about it. Then we asked him about the other two, Novartis and AT&T. Didn't know about it. And an AT&T, Justice Department.
Is he upset with Michael Cohen for even attempting to sell access, whether or not it worked?
He doesn't like that. Look, I don't.
Life. You really believe that people like Brennan and Clapper are part of a deep state conspiracy?
I don't know what you want to call it, but I have no regard at all for Clapper and Brennan. I think they're two clowns. I mean, the other guy, Clapper is talking about spying. and he doesn't realize it's spying on the Trump campaign. He's got an obligation to tell him. Brennan has been, I mean, Brennan was chief torturer in charge. Then he disowned it. Then I don't know what he did with the CIA, but he's the most political CIA director I have ever met. And Clapper, yeah, well, they're not civil servants as far as I know.
Really? All those decades of service?
Political appointees.
In the military?
Political appoint. Yeah. Hey.
Your time.
You're very fair.
And thank you. And you mentioned James Clapper. He is actually here with us in the studio. He is going to respond to the president's lawyer. We're going to ask him how he interprets the diplomatic pushback and forth over North Korea as well. Stay with us.
Spring is on, and it's time to get growing. As America's #1 professional lawn care company, True Green can tailor a plan that turns your ordinary lawn into an extraordinary one. So start your True Green lawn plan today for only $29.95.
I want to change the world.
Got me questioning whether I could do this. Am I good for that one?
Sam Landry just made a big mistake.
You need to wake up. It's all a lie.
I know what I'm doing.
Looks great, honey.
Right? Sometimes you need an expert.
I got it.
And sometimes those experts need experts.
On it.
And sometimes the expert needed needs insurance expertise.
It's all good. Steve, you're covered for general liability. And Paul, we got your back with workers' comp. Wow, it's like a party in here. Where are the hors d'oeuvres, right? Tartlets? We cover commercial vehicles.
Grazie, Gino. Find a price that fits. TripAdvisor.
Martin Luther King was killed tonight.
20,000 Allied troops are on the ground.
Senator Kennedy has been shot.
I hope to restore respect to the presidency.
1968, a two-night event starting tonight on CNN.
Running a small business is demanding, and that's why small business owners need more. Like internet that's up to the challenge. The Gig Speed network from Comcast Business gives you more, with speeds up to 20 times faster than the average. That means powering more devices, more video conferencing, and more downloads in seconds, not minutes. Get 75 megabit internet for $49.95 per month when you get 2 voice mobility lines. Comcast is building America's largest Gig Speed network. To give small businesses more, call 1-800-501-6000 today. Running a small business is demanding, and that's why small business owners need more. Like internet that's up to the challenge. The Gig Speed network from Comcast Business gives you more, with speeds up to 20 times faster than the average. That means powering more devices, more video conferencing, and more downloads in seconds, not minutes. Get 75 megabit internet for $49.95 per month when you get 2 voice lines. Comcast is building America's largest Gig Speed network. To give small businesses more, call 1-800-501-6000 today.
Cuomo Prime Time, weeknights at 9 Eastern, starting June 4th on CNN.
Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Dana Bash. The president of South Korea says the North Koreans still want complete hard truths from a life in intelligence. I want to ask about North Korea, but let's just first talk about what you just heard from the former New York City mayor, the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. He called you and Mr. Brennan a clown, and he also said that you're just political appointees, and that's where the heart of these investigations come from.
Well, in the space of a week, I've progressed from being the dumbest former intelligence officer on the planet, according to President Trump, and now a clown. So, you know, it's a career progression, I guess, at its best. You know, it just more in the narrative here.
Let's talk about the specifics, though. The idea of the president's legal team wanting to get a briefing from the FBI about this confidential source. Good idea?
Well, no. I mean, I don't think this is a good idea at all, any more than it was a good idea to have the president's attorney show up unannounced, I guess, for the Gang of Eight briefing. I was recalling when I heard about that, my last Gang of Eight briefing, which was on the 6th of January 2017, when we briefed the Gang of Eight. Oversight committees. I was trying to imagine what would have been like had somebody just walked in at that session, which had extremely sensitive information in it. And that's just not done. It really contravenes a long-standing practice and norm that makes our government work.
I want to ask you one of the things that Rudy Giuliani brought up, and that that the president has been tweeting about this weekend as well, which is if there was enough concern about people penetrating the Trump campaign, why not contact him? Why not contact the campaign instead of sending an informant or a confidential source in? What's the answer to that?
Well, I think the first thing is determine just what was going on. If there wasn't a concern about the Russians, and that could be allayed, then perhaps no reason to do that. You know, the FBI has rules and protocols on when they decide to do things like that, and I don't think at that point that it had reached the point where it would be appropriate to engage, you know, with the head of the campaign or the nominee.
But you didn't, as the director of national intelligence, did you know about the operation or not?
No, absolutely not. I did not know about it, nor would it be appropriate for any. I support the letter that President Trump sent to Kim Jong-un. I think it was a good thing to do. Having done that, though, I think I've been long an advocate of, and this is typical North Korean, you know, one step back, two steps forward, one step back. That's what they always do. And in some ways, Kim Jong-un may have met his match here with our very unconventional president. What I've been long an advocate for is let's first establish the conduit, the apparatus for communicating, which I think would be a real plus for the summit. And by that I mean establishing interest sections in both Washington and Pyongyang. What this means is a diplomatic presence below the level of a full embassy, much as we did in Havana, Cuba for decades. This would facilitate, would be reciprocal, would facilitate dialogue, would gain a lot more insight and understanding about what's going on in North Korea, would promote information flow into North Korea, and importantly, would give the North Koreans a measure of security. And if they more B-1s, B-2s, or B-52s deploying on the peninsula or within operational proximity. So just
unfortunately, we're out of time. Just real quick, can you just tell me, do you think it is better for the president to have this summit, regardless of whether there's no agreement, just to establish the dialogue? I
do. I think there's value, having gone this far, there's value in meeting and greeting, gripping and grinning, and just establishing a rapport. I think, yes, I think it would be important to have the summit.
James Clapper, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dana.
And nearly 1,500 migrant children are unaccounted for. President Trump is slamming Democrats for immigrant families being split up at the border, but his own chief of staff says it's a tough deterrent. Our panel weighs in next.
His father was a veteran who served as a frog.
Anna and Mark are heading into retirement and a little nervous, but not so much about what market volatility may do to their retirement savings. That's because they have a Shield annuity from Bright House Financial, which allows them to take advantage of growth opportunities in up markets while maintaining a level of protection in down markets, so they can focus on new things like exotic snacks. Talk with your advisor about Shield annuities from Bright House Financial, established by MetLife.
Our dad was in the hospital.
Because of smoking.
It still had to have a cigarette.
Had to.
But then we were like,
what are we doing?
The Nicoderm CQ patch helps prevent your urge to smoke all day. Nicoderm CQ.
Definitely strong. Now go and hunt down your enemies. Play Vikings, War of Clans.
How we see, how we look. Great eyewear is all about both. Thoughtful design. Precision optics. Styles people love. At Zenni.com, we make it all stunningly affordable. So you can see the world the way it's meant to be seen. In perfect focus. Zenni.com. Eyewear for everyone.
The closer you get to home, the more you know the commute is worth it. For all the work you pour into this place, you sure get a lot more out of it. You and that John Deere tractor. So versatile, you can keep dreaming up projects all the way home. It's a longer drive, but just like a John Deere, it's worth it. Nothing runs like a Deere. Now you can own a 1E subcompact tractor for just $99 a month. Learn more at your John Deere dealer.
Once upon a time, there was a simple box. Inside it, the most comfortable mattress imaginable. Engineered by an award-winning team, on a Casper, life is but a dream.
Square. When this show launched, he was the main guest. Now, the week of a milestone 10th anniversary, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair is back. Fareed Zakaria, GPS, next.
He served his country as an Army captain, an astronaut on the shuttle Columbia, and as one of America's most independent senators, Bill Nelson has delivered for Florida. When some tried to privatize Social Security and Medicare for millions of Floridians, he stopped them. Stopped insurance companies from denying coverage for pre-existing conditions, too. We need a senator who serves all of us, who puts Florida first. That's Bill Nelson. SMP is responsible for the content of this ad.
There's always something new at Thayer's, and this Memorial Day weekend, everything is priced to sell. Don't miss spectacular store-wide savings with exclusive bonus savings on Beach House by Tommy Bahama only at Thayer's. Half off the newest designs from Stanley and Paula Deen collections, or this beautifully crafted queen bed by Thomasville. And check out this new contemporary look by Universal. Everything new is in and on sale now. There's Memorial Day weekend sale. Don't miss it. Anthony Bourdain.
And we will prosecute you. If you are smuggling a child, then we will prosecute you. And that child may be separated from you as required by law.
Welcome back, and we're here with our panel. That was Attorney General Jeff Sessions announcing the new policy of the Trump administration to separate families caught crossing the border. And that happened as reports emerged this week of migrant parents being unable to find their children, some of their children who have been separated because the parents were taken to be prosecuted. 1,500 of the children were separated from their parents. Patty Solis Doyle, what do you think is going on here?
Well, it's a tragedy, number one, and it is unspeakably cruel. You know, these parents are coming with their children because they're trying to escape some horror that they're facing in their own country. They're coming to save their kids. They're met with criminal prosecution. Their children are being torn away. And now we're finding that our government has lost these children. Where are the kids? A 4-year-old in a different country with strangers, and now vulnerable to human trafficking, vulnerable to abuse, and there is nothing that these parents can do. So I think that the president should use every resource at his disposal to find these kids and make sure that they're safe and tell us that they're safe.
Is this an unintended consequence of tough
I don't think it is. I think this is a process that's been going on a long time. What happens is these children come into detention. There is a vetting process of who these children are assigned to. It's not just 1,400 children. It's a much larger group of kids. And they are assigned to sponsors in this country who go through a process to be able to qualify to be sponsors. These children are placed in them, and what happened is there were, again, thousands more than the 1,500 you're talking about, that they follow up with a lot of these, they follow up to find out where these children are, how they're doing, and what they found is that 1,500 of them, somehow, these sponsors and the kids sort of are off the radar. They haven't checked in, they haven't been able to find them. Now, the reality is, a lot of these sponsors are, in many cases, have, they've been checked out, but they may have other reasons for not communicating or dropping off the system. So this isn't. To give us our location. But the idea that 100% of these sponsors are going to check in, of course, that's never going to be the case. There's always going to be problems. People move. They don't feel, oh, we don't have to check in anymore. We've gone someplace else. So the idea that they're, quote, lost, I think is an overestimate, is hyperbole to try to create an issue. I don't really think there is one, other than the fact that the bureaucracy, surprise, surprise, doesn't work very well.
1,500 children being lost is not an issue, then there's something definitely wrong.
I think the idea that they're lost, they are placed with families that have been previously
And the government
vetted.
has said they have lost track of them. That's another word for lost.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that these kids are out. There are logical explanations. And again, we're talking about a government system, and we all know, Bill and I will sit here forever and tell you how inadequate a lot of these government agencies are at doing a lot of things. I mean, we lose people all the time in a lot of other government programs.
Let me just bring in some. It's not just Democrats who are saying this. Conservatives also have been outspoken about being upset about this. Eric Erickson, who's a conservative writer, he said,
a policy decision by the president. I don't think I wouldn't defend it, but he made that decision. The issue is less so that there's that. Then there's the question of these kids who the Department of DHS has lost track of. But I think, yes, I mean, so Rick gave it the most reasonable sort of semi-defense of the situation, which is more than the administration has done.
And if this happened in any normal administration, the president would put out a statement saying, we don't quite know what's happened here. We're looking into it as fast as we can. I've ordered the Secretary of Homeland Security to give me a report by Monday morning. The Secretary of Homeland Security will be on television saying, we care a lot about these kids. We want to make sure this is okay. Congress would be having hearings and deciding whether to pass legislation. But what's most striking, we'll see if Congress does something when they get back. I think they should. But what's striking is the president doesn't mind the story, I think, actually, because it makes him look tough on immigration. Right. There's no pushback. Rick pushed back, but there's no pushback from the administration on these very disturbing stories.
And can I just tell you, he and his colleagues are also slamming Democrats, saying that this started out as a Democratic policy. We've done a fact check. That's not exactly true.
But Senator, to me, that's not the point anymore.
It is the
moral.
Point.
No, the point
is
the
point because you want to discourage that behavior.
The point is that we have children's lives at stake here.
But the parents are putting their children's lives at stake. Let's get to the bottom line.
No, the point is that
the parents are putting these children in danger by doing what they're doing.
America has a moral obligation to those kids that is larger than what the parent may have done.
The moral obligation is to deter that type of activity.
And the children be damned? The children be damned?
Not be damned.
You can be.
At some point, the parents have to take responsibility for their children.
We're going to use the children as a pawn.
At some point, parents have to take responsibility for their children.
Go ahead, you want to get in.
I'm just saying, one can believe that some of these parents may be behaving irresponsibly. One can also believe that as a matter of policy, it is unwise and cruel to take their kids away from them. And there are other ways you can punish.
We take kids away from parents who do illegal acts all the time, and we put parents in jail.
We don't lose. We're not.
Right, we don't lose. Exactly right. What's the excuse for losing these children?
Patty, that millions of kids over the course of this country whose parents have been put in jail have been, quote, lost in the system. And you know that to be true.
We can't justify this. It cannot be justified. And this president is going the extra mile to push this narrative.
Should there be...
I wish you had the outrage for parents who are jailed as much as you have outrage for what's going on here.
Kamala Harris and others
I have outrage for. I have outrage about a whole bunch of stuff. So
This policy is now prohibited. Little kids should be kept with their parents. They can be disciplined together. They can be held together in a detention facility if that's the right thing to do while their claims of asylum or their claims of refugee status or their claims to be able to immigrate are adjudicated. This is what Congress is supposed to do. And it's another case where I'd be very curious to see when they get back. And if I were a Democrat in Congress in particular, but a Republican who agreed with this, I would insist on action fast, not a hearing. I mean, why don't they just change the policy? It's not that hard.
All right, everybody, thank you for that incredibly lively discussion. It is a very tough issue, but I think we all agree that the kids are the most important thing, whatever the policy is. Thank you so much. And up next is Kim Jong-un learning the art of the deal from the president himself. Well, that's the subject of this week's State of the Cartoonian.
Managing blood sugar is not a marathon. It's a series of smart choices. And when you replace one meal or snack a day with Glucerna, made with Carb Steady to help minimize blood sugar spikes, you can really feel it. Glucerna, everyday progress.
This is Dr. Günter Zuloff. Did he solve Carmichael's totient conjecture? Intelligent online financing and live market-based pricing on over 15,000 vehicles. DriveTime.com, the genius way to buy a car.
Peel Boiling hard-boiled eggs is such a hassle and makes a mess. Now there's Egglets, the silicone sensation that cooks hard-boiled eggs without the shell. Just prep, crack the egg into the pod, twist on the top, and boil. Pop out perfect hard-boiled eggs. No hassle, no mess. The thermodynamic silicone cooks the egg like it's inside the shell. Make delicious omelets, and it's perfect for soft-boiled eggs too. Get Egglets today at these fine retailers.
Father was a remarkable man.
Patrick! If I'm to take control of my life, it has to be now.
Patrick Melrose, a 5-part limited event series, only on Showtime.
Looking for a hotel that fits your budget? TripAdvisor now searches over 200 sites to find you the hotel you want at the lowest price. Grazie, Gino. Find a price that fits. TripAdvisor.
Now, there's an affordable way to hear what you've been missing. Introducing HD Smart Ear, the new high-definition, behind-the-ear way to hear. Exclusively at Walmart Vision Center. HD Smart Ear comes fully loaded with advanced features found in expensive prescription devices. Best of all, you don't need a prescription. You can start using today. HD Smart Ear, the smart way to hear.
And so is he. So, put on your headphones, turn on Audible, and binge better.
I'm your phone. Stuck down here between your seat and your console, playing a little hide and seek. Cold. Warmer. Warmer. Boiling. Jackpot. And if you've got cut rate car insurance, you could be picking up these charges yourself. So get Allstate, where agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Spring is on, so it's time to get started. But first things first, call True Green, America's #1 professional lawn care company. Millions of homeowners like you trust us to give them a lawn they can live on. Start your True Green lawn plan today for only $29.95.
What you don't see can hurt you. If you just monitor your credit, you can miss some identity theft threats. LifeLock now includes Norton to help protect you from even more threats. Join now at lifelock.com.
I'm about to start the Nature's Bounty Hair, Skin, and Nails Challenge, so my future self will thank me. Thank you. I become a model? Yes.
No.
Start the challenge today and try new tropical citrus flavor with collagen. Nature's Bounty.
Closed captioning brought to you by InventHelp. Call 1
Wrote The Art of the Deal, one of the all-time best-selling books about deals and deal makers.
But how to go up against the brash billionaire? Lesson 1, threaten to leave before the negotiations have even begun.
If you can't say you're going to walk, you can't make a good deal, okay? It's called The Art of the Deal, right?
The North Koreans are reportedly studying up on that tell-all White House book, Fire and Fury.
Fire and fury, like the world has never seen.
But why stop at memorizing Trump's deal-making tips? The North Koreans are hungry for any advantage, maybe even studying the president's choice of fuel.
The Big Macs are great, the Quarter Pounder with cheese.
As Kim Jong-un prepares to sit down at the
Are the president's policies helping or hurting Americans' image abroad? Fareed Zakaria has this next.
With Western Union, you can simply send money any way you want, whether it's online, on the Western Union app, or even in store. So you can help them celebrate their big day right now. Send money how you want with Western Union.
Ha! That will never work. No, 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 no. Ah, a bulb of light.
A flying machine? Impossible.
A personal computer.
Smart neighborhoods running on a microgrid.
A stadium powered with solar.
A hospital that doesn't lose power.
It's amazing.
I like it.
Never gonna happen.
Impossible. That will never work.
Never gonna happen.
Go.
Keep focused on what's ahead and keep yourself on course.
Because better is a never-ending quest.
The new Accord with Honda Sensing, now with standard safety features that can help you stop or stay in your lane. It's our most impressive Honda ever, and 2018 North American Car of the Year.
What's the value of capital? What's critical thinking worth? A basketball costs $14. What's team spirit worth? What's it worth to talk to your mom? What's the value of a walk in the woods? The value of capital is to create not just wealth, but things that matter. Morgan Stanley.
I want to change the world.
Got me questioning whether I could do this. Am I good for that one?
Sam Landry just made a big mistake.
You need to wake up. It's all a lie.
I know what I'm doing.
Once upon a time, there was a simple box. Inside it, the most comfortable mattress imaginable. Engineered by an award-winning team, on a Casper, life is but a dream.
More than 35,000 five-star reviews. And you're
their draft cards or return them to the federal government.
Running a small business is demanding, and that's why small business owners need more. Like internet that's up to the challenge. The Gig Speed network from Comcast Business gives you more, with speeds up to 20 times faster than the average. That means powering more devices, more video conferencing, and more downloads in seconds, not minutes. Get 75 megabit internet for $49.95 per month when you get 2 voice mobility lines. Comcast is building America's largest Gig Speed network. To give small businesses more, call 1-800-501-6000 today.
Want brand name Viagra from Pfizer? Get Viagra and save 50% on a year-long supply by texting TV SAVE to 37500. Ask your doctor if your heart is healthy enough for sex. Do not take Viagra if you take nitrates for chest.
On CNN.
This is GPS, the Global Public Square. Welcome to all of you in the United States and around the world. I'm Fareed Zakaria. Today on the show, the on-again, off-again summit in Singapore with North Korea. I'll ask former National Security Advisor Tom Donilon whether Donald Trump is blundering or brilliant. And 10 years ago, GPS first went on the air. Welcome. My big guest in that first episode was Tony Blair. The former British Prime Minister joins me again to talk about the forces that seem to be shaping our world. Populism, protectionism, religious extremism. What would he do if he were confronting these forces?
I really fear the polarization, which is the bane of democracy.
Finally, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Scientists say it is much bigger than we originally thought. I'll bring you a novel idea to clean up this terrible oceanic. Obama is not a natural deal maker, he tweeted in 2016. Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly, he predicted incorrectly back in 2013. We need leaders who can negotiate great deals for Americans, Trump tweeted in 2015. The implication was obvious. He was the ultimate deal maker. Well, it is almost 500 days into the Trump administration. Where are the deals? Where is the renegotiated NAFTA, the bilateral trade agreements that were going to replace the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the new and improved Iran nuclear pact, the China trade deal? The world is laughing at us, as he would say. By now, it is obvious that Trump is actually a bad negotiator, an impulsive, emotional man who ignores briefings, rarely knows details, and shoots first and asks questions later. Consider how the administration has handled the North Korea summit. First, the meeting was announced with great fanfare, with Trump soon lavishing praise on Kim Jong-un. Agreeing to the meeting was a huge symbolic concession to North Korea while getting almost nothing in return. This was to be a head-of-state summit, though there was little preparation and no determination that the two sides were actually close enough to have a serious negotiation at that level. Trump got excited enough to start hyping the prospects for a break. Its early overtures, or was this all just incompetence? Trump has been even more ham-handed in his dealings with China. Just before entering the White House, he dangled the possibility of recognizing Taiwan. Beijing quickly shut down contact with the U.S., and humiliatingly, Trump had to walk back his comments in a phone call with President Xi Jinping. The current trade talks with China are a case study in bad negotiations. It's hard to know where to begin. The U.S. government does not seem to know what it wants. Some days it appears that Washington is fixated on the size of the trade deficit. Other days it focuses on technology transfer and the theft of intellectual property. The White House began its attacks by choosing to impose tariffs on steel, which mostly affected America's allies, ensuring that it had no partners in its attempt to pressure the Chinese. American negotiators leaked furiously to the press to undermine each other's positions and even squabbled among themselves in front of a Chinese delegation earlier this month. Trump himself seems to switch gears repeatedly. After his administration announced that it would punish ZTE, a huge Chinese tech company that committed serious trade violations, Trump suddenly changed his mind, citing a concern for the impact on Chinese jobs. Imagine the outcry if Obama had backed away from pressure on the Chinese in order to help their economy. As talks fail, For more, go to cnn.com/Fareed and read my Washington Post column this week. And let's get started. The White House juggernaut was steaming toward a June 12th summit in Singapore with North Korea until suddenly on Thursday, it wasn't. President Trump is said to have personally dictated the letter to Kim Jong-un, saying in part, "Sadly, based on the tremendous anger and open hostility displayed in your most recent statement, I feel it is inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting. But after some conciliatory words from the North Korean side, Trump's tone changed again. On Friday morning, before getting on his helicopter, he addressed the press corps.
We're talking to them now. It was a very nice statement they put out. We'll see what happens.
He went on to say the meeting could still happen on the 12th, as planned, in 2.5 weeks. What is going on? Joining me now is President Obama's National Security Advisor, Tom Donilon. Tom, how do you decode this on-again, off-again summit?
Well, I think that a lot of this has to a president or a White House has some sort of bias, right? It may not be malign, but you'll have some sort of bias. You have to do these things face to face. You have to have some understanding of what's possible, what's not possible. I think the second mistake has been that there was really very little message discipline. So after the great fanfare with which the very important summit was announced, we had talk of a Libya model, right, which was really not constructive. It's not applicable. The Libya situation bears really no resemblance to the very extensive nuclear program that the North Koreans have, and it was also not received well. And the third statecraft error, I think, was not connecting the dots. Pulling out of the Iran deal made this much more complicated. It made it complicated because you were going to have more assurances for the North Koreans, and it set the bar pretty high. Indeed, if we could get a deal close to the Iranian deal, at least initially, in North Korea, it would be quite an accomplishment, and we really weren't communicating with our allies effectively, including when the president made his announcement. So there were some core statecraft errors here, and if you look at the successful negotiations in recent times, the Camp David negotiation, the opening to China, the Bosnia negotiation, the Iran negotiation, there really are lessons to be learned, and I don't think that the president has really kind of steeped himself in this in the way that he could to With respect to a maximum pressure campaign, either in the Iranian case or in the North Korean case, and they're quite similar in terms of building the structures. I oversaw the Iranian pressure campaign, as you know, for almost 5 years. It was essential to have multilateral cooperation and effective sanctions. Why is that? Because the United States doesn't have any real economic relationship with either Iran or North Korea. So to have any effective sanctions, you were going to have these other countries involved. You're going to have them in agreement as to what the goal was of the sanctions, and you were going to have them involved in terms of executing the sanctions. A bilateral set of sanctions from the United States on North Korea or Iran would be wholly ineffective. So it's absolutely essential to keep your allies and partners involved in order to have, again, the core statecraft lesson, to have an effective sanctions campaign. And I would say, as an aside here, it's very important, not just an aside, there's been real damage, I think, to the relationship with the South Koreans here that was unnecessary.
It seems to me, to go back to the first point you made, Tom, that the core issue in any of these negotiations, we get lost in the circus of, the almost the sort of dating breakup and perhaps getting back together. The core issue is there an overlap of interests? What is the potential agreement?
Not keeping their word here, but I agree with you. You have to find where the common ground might be. It's interesting, Fareed. If I were going to make a book recommendation this weekend for President Trump, I would recommend that he read a terrific book and an easy read, Margaret Macmillan's book, Nixon and Mao: The Week That Changed the World, which which is the story of the opening to China, and goes deeply into the preparations that President Nixon, supported by Secretary Kissinger, engaged in, including something you just talked about, which is the President of the United States at that point, Richard Nixon, sitting down with a legal pad, with his advisors, and saying, what do we want? What do they want? Where are the possible areas of overlapping agreement? That kind of rigorous analysis, I think, is really important, particularly with a party like this, as was the case with the Chinese, a party that we really don't understand that well.
Do you feel as though when you look at something like those negotiations, you know, part of it was people like Nixon and Kissinger spent a lot of time trying to understand the history, the culture, where were the Chinese coming from? I know that that some of the negotiators on the Iran deal spent a lot of time trying to understand what
days in September. You and I knew Dick Holbrooke pretty well, right? Ambassador Holbrooke, who was the architect of the Dayton Accords, which in the 1990s ended the war in Yugoslavia. He spent months studying the personalities and the history and the language and the meaning of phrases. Absolutely, I think, essential. Again, as I said before, in this case, because we've had so little contact with the North Koreans and know so little about their system and the personalities, you need even more work. And I think we actually need more direct talks. As I said, it's kind of a golden rule in diplomacy that you really want to, for something this important, to have a direct conversation so that you can test these things and not rely, as good allies as South Koreans are, not really rely on a third-party report of what your negotiating partner might be interested in and what he might actually do.
Tom, when you watch these various negotiations from various places you've been in, because you've been in so many administrations, is the hardest part figuring out what concessions we can make, the United States can make, and live with domestically? Because that's always, you know, we often forget, if the other side is going to make a deal, the U.S. has to move as well.
Yeah, well, you certainly need to understand, again, as we talked about, where the common areas might be. But yes, you have to have a set of clear goals.
Always a pleasure.
Great. Thank you, Fareed.
Next on GPS, a real treat. British Prime Minister Tony Blair was the main guest on our first ever show 10 years ago. This week, he is back, talking about populism, globalism, and religious extremism. A fascinating, wide-ranging interview when we come back.
Life happens everywhere, like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
Let someone else do the heavy lifting. TripAdvisor compares prices from over 200 booking sites to find the right hotel for you at the lowest price, so you barely have to lift a finger or a wing. TripAdvisor.
Shield annuities from Bright House Financial allow you to take advantage of growth opportunities with a level of
Dealer Days. Get legendary steel quality and save now on the MS-170 chainsaw.
Remember, steel products are only sold by servicing dealers.
Steel Dealer Days are happening now. Search STIHL or visit steeldealers.com.
When you're particular, you want things done right. That's why we test all of our paints and stains for months, or even years. We dedicate 175,000 square feet to getting it wrong. Because you deserve paint that's done right. That's proudly particular. Benjamin Moore, the standard for paint professionals.
For a limited time, get $10 off Regal Select interior and exterior paint at participating Benjamin Moore retailers.
I no longer live with the uncertainties of Hep C, wondering, what if? I let go of all those feelings because I am cured with Harvoni.
Harvoni is a revolutionary treatment for the most common type of chronic hepatitis C. It's been prescribed to more than 250,000 people and is proven to cure up to 99% of patients who've had no prior treatment with 12 weeks. Certain patients can be cured with just 8 weeks of Harvoni. Before starting Harvoni, your doctor will test to see if you've ever had hepatitis B, which may flare up and cause serious liver problems during and after.
Pella window designs. They're tested from -40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit and subjected to wind-driven rain. They're even engineered to stop hurricane debris from penetrating your home. All with distinctive style that goes beyond the ordinary. Pella windows and doors. Perfectly beautiful.
All right, I brought in new Max Protein.
To give you the protein you need, with less of the sugar you don't. I'll take that.
30 grams of protein and 1 gram of sugar. New Ensure Max Protein and 2 great flavors.
My mom washes the dishes before she puts them in the dishwasher. So what does the dishwasher do?
New Cascade Platinum lets your dishwasher be the dishwasher. 3 cleaning agents dissolve, lift, and rinse away food the first time. New Cascade Platinum.
This coming Friday, June 1st, will mark the 10th anniversary of GPS. On that date in 2008, CNN aired the first ever episode of this show. Welcome to the very first edition of Global Public Square. I'm Fareed Zakaria. For the last 20 years, I've been writing about the world. And now I have an opportunity These are the issues that shape our world today. So to celebrate the anniversary, I could not think of a better guest to have on than Tony Blair. Tony, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, Fareed.
When you look at the world now, populism rising in the West, the Middle East racked by turmoil, but Asia rising and reforming, Latin America by and large doing quite well. Is there an overall picture?
Yeah, I think there is an overall picture. I think the picture is one of huge change, which is discomforting to the West. But, you know, it's an interesting thing when my institute looks at, for example, attitudes, take, say, India and Nigeria and put it against USA and UK. What is strange, given the respective wealth of the 4 countries, is that in India and Nigeria, people are optimistic about the future. In India and Nigeria, they think the next generation will do better than them. We have the opposite feeling in the West. And so you've got the rise of China, and behind them will come India. These are huge things that are impacting the world. You've got this whole question unresolved around radical Islam and how that works out. You've got the populism in the West, and you've got this technological revolution. I mean, these are the 4 things that I think are going to govern how the next 25, 30 years of Western politics operates. Essentially a good thing, but you have to mitigate its risks and access its opportunities, and not just let it go wherever it wants, as it were. And it's also open to new ideas, open across boundaries of culture and faith and race and ethnicity. And closed is kind of isolationist, protectionist, nativist. And you can see these arguments were beginning then. Obviously, they're even more manifest now today.
What I'm struck by is that you notice that the old divides, the old categories were collapsing. And you can see it in the Republican Party, which has gone from being the staunchest protector of free trade. I mean, I think 20 years ago, the number of people in the, when you ask Republicans, do you support free trade, it was like 65%. Yeah. And it's dropped, I think, 25 points or something in that magnitude. So do you think we're ending up with a new political framework where you have the sort of the parties that want to block globalization, immigration, open, that they want obstacles, they want barriers, and then there's the party that wants more of this openness with some safety nets?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be self-critical, I was kind of right and wrong. I think the open versus closed distinction is really important, but I think I was wrong in thinking that it meant that, for example, traditional left politics kind of disappeared, or traditional right politics disappeared. No, they're still very present. They've probably been pulled further out to the extremes, however. Designate as very much on the old left side of it. Free this, free that, more tax and spend. But it's got a larger purchase and appeal than it did in the days when I was in number 10 Downing Street. And then I think you've got this very interesting, which I consider myself part, kind of third grouping, which are people who are socially liberal, but on the economy, strongly pro-enterprise, future-oriented, in favor of social justice, but in a modernized form, if you see what I mean. So I think what is strange about Western politics today is you've got groupings that don't follow traditional left-right patterns and lines. They don't really follow where traditional parties are today. And I think you've got large numbers of people who kind of feel politically homeless in that situation.
One of the things you've also written about is that this is fundamentally a cultural revolution. What I'm struck by I want you to expand on that, but also does it help us on the basis of their core economic class interests in the old Marxist sense of the word, or, think about the working class voting for Republicans who are voting to slash benefits to the working class?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part, again, of the fracturing. So you've got some people that might vote Republican or vote Conservative from traditional working class areas who just think they're going to get represented better. I do think, myself, the cultural aspect of this is as important as the economic. I mean, if you just look at the election in Italy, for sure there are economic factors driving that. But a powerful, possibly the most powerful driver was anxiety over immigration, over a feeling that, Italy is being governed by people who don't get the lives of ordinary people. And, I think the big challenge for people who are not on the conservative side of politics, but the progressive side, is how do you make sense of this, and what is the right political strategy to recapture politics for the progressive side? Because, when I'm looking around Western democracy today, other than, Canada, if you think of a reasonably large Western country, I can't think of one other than Canada in which a traditional liberal left party is in office. Of the right, and so it's as it were decided it's got to go further to the left, that what were called kind of neoliberal type policies of myself and people like Bill Clinton were, you know, the wrong way to go. And if we move further to the left, we're going to pull people along with us. And I'm afraid, you know, I just don't think there's evidence for that. And what's more, I think whenever the populism of the right is up against the populism of the left, you know, the populism of the right tends to win.
We have to take a quick break now, but we will be back with more of Tony Blair. I'm going to ask him about what progressives should do, what to do about Brexit, and what he makes of the populists who are in power when we come back.
The trouble with populism, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being popular. I mean, most politicians want to be popular.
The sun is shining, so why binge in here when you can do it out there? With this clever little app called Audible, you can listen to the stories you love while doing the things you love outside. Everyone's doing it. She's binging, they're binging, and so is he. So put on your headphones, turn on Audible, and binge better.
Powerful relief of your kids' allergies.
Mom, Dad, hi. I had a very minor fender bender tonight in an unreasonably narrow fast food drive-through lane. But what a powerful life lesson. And don't worry, I have everything handled. I already spoke to our Allstate agent, and I know that we have accident forgiveness, which is so smart on your guys' part. Like the fact that they'll just forgive you.
4 weeks without the car.
Okay, yep, good night.
With accident forgiveness, your rates won't go up just because of an accident. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
So how's it going?
Well,
you know, we had a vacation early in our marriage that kind of put us in a hole. Go someplace exotic? Yeah, Bermuda.
a hospital in Bermuda.
A hospital in Bermuda. What? What happened? I got a little overconfident on a moped.
Even with insurance, we had to dip into our 401k, so it set us back a little bit.
Sometimes you don't have a choice, but it doesn't mean you can't get back on track. Great.
Yeah, great.
I'd like to go back to Bermuda. I hear it's nice. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
No judgment, just guidance. TD Ameritrade.
Behr presents 2 stains, 4 seasons. Ordinary stains say they can do the job, but Behr... stains, exclusively at the Home Depot.
Police and demonstrators tussling all over this busy intersection on this, the night of the presidential nominations at this Democratic convention.
Running a small business is demanding, and that's why small business owners need more. Like internet that's up to the challenge. The Gig Speed network from Comcast Business gives you more, with speeds up to 20 times faster than the average. That means powering more devices, more video conferencing, and more downloads in seconds, not minutes. Get 75 megabit internet for $49.95 per month when you get 2 voice mobility lines. Comcast is building America's largest Gig Speed network. To give small businesses more, call 1-800-501-6000 today.
Introducing the all-new Naples Acura.
And an all-new luxury automotive experience.
Our renovated showroom delivers a new level of quality and comfort. Enjoy our all-new amenities, like a contemporary customer lounge, air-conditioned state-of-the-art service center, and express 1-hour routine maintenance. Visit our new facility today and drive home in a new RDX for just $259 a month.
We look forward to seeing you at the all-new Naples Acura.
Delivering the car and the experience.
Then there tends to be disillusionment. What do you see happening here?
Well, the trouble with populism, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being popular. I mean, most politicians want to be popular. I define populism, as it were, riding the anger, not providing the answer. And the problem, obviously, is when people are in power, riding the anger is not enough. You've got to provide an answer because that's what people expect governments to do. But the question is, because if the progressives don't respond to this in the right way, you know, they're going to face a continuing set of defeats. And that's why I'm in favor of the politics of reaching out and building bridges. I'm not in favor of the politics that says, look, these people are just, they're the enemy. They're opposed to us. They're never going to be with us. And we just need to stack up as many votes as we can amongst the folk who agree with us.
What to do about the class divide that is increasingly so apparent? You talk about the suspicion people have of these liberal elites. Michael Gove said, we've had enough of experts. There's the sense that, you know, now, of course, you said to yourself, well, but the next time you need to go to a doctor, I'm guessing you're going to go to an expert, not your local witch doctor. But there is that sense, and it is part of a society that has been sorted into this meritocracy. Can you do anything about that?
I mean, you can. I mean, by the way, you know, we had working class people. I mean, my deputy prime minister would certainly not agree with the description of him as a part of the liberal elite. But where you're right is there is a gulf, right, between people who inhabit one form of culture and one set of ideas and people who inhabit another. But this is why I think it's important to bridge that divide. And you know, one of the things I find frustrating is when, you know, to put it very bluntly, you know, I fought 3 elections and I won 3, and then the people who subsequently came along and lost them say, no, the reason I lost is because you guys won the wrong way. Sure. Now, I think if we'd still been in power over these last 10, 11 years, we would have been doing things differently. I mean, for sure, after the financial crisis, you had to take radical and different measures. For sure today, you've got to understand these cultural problems are even deeper than they were at the time that I was in. But the basic approach of saying, how do you get a unifying economic and social message that keeps the country thinking it's one group of people, even with and when people are feeling insecure, the guy, and it usually is a guy, that comes along and says, I don't care what anyone thinks, this is what I'm going to do. And if you guys don't like it, I actually like that you don't like it. It becomes attractive.
And when you see what's happening in Italy now, for example, or, you know, with Britain, where, you know, you have a certain kind of populism in power, but it isn't delivering very much. It seems to be, you know, is there going to be a breakdown toward more and more anger? What's your fear here, beyond the, you know?
So my fear is that if you take Brexit as an example, I mean, the truth is Brexit's not an answer to any of the problems Britain's got. It's not even an answer to immigration, really. And this is, if you try this populism and it doesn't work, the risk is that when it becomes clear that it doesn't work, the populists double down. They don't retreat. And that's where, you know, look, I'm not... You know, you've got to be careful of being alarmist about this. But I notice 2 things. I think there are strains within the Western democratic system that have not been present, at least for a very long time. And secondly, outside of Western democracy, there is a different model of government that people are setting up. I mean, you look what's happening in China at the moment. I mean, it's fascinating. for countries. But, you know, if you're having that debate with someone from China at the moment, for the first time since the 1950s, when the Soviet Union was held up, you know, as not just a separate form of ideas, but a more effective form of government, okay, collapsed later, but at that point, it was competing with us. I think we're back to that situation.
What to do about Brexit?
Well, I would still like to see it changed. I mean, I think that the truth is there is no answer to the fundamental dilemma. So in this whole Brexit negotiation, the government's got a choice. And it keeps kicking the can down the road because it can't really make this choice and because the cabinet and the government are on different sides of the argument. And the basic choice is this. If you want to stay close to Europe, because half of our trade is with Europe and these commercial relationships really matter to the UK and to jobs, then Europe's going to say you can't stay close to us unless you abide by the rules. Okay. But then if you abide by the rules, people will say, well, what's the point of leaving? Alternatively, you say, I want to free myself of all those rules, in which case you've got a clean break from Europe, in which case you're going to do significant short-term and medium-term damage economically as you adjust, in which case the country's going to ask, what's the price? So that dilemma, what's the point or what's the price, at some point in the next weeks, months maybe, the government's going to have to decide which is right. And once they come down on one side or the other, that's when I think they're going to hit a
Step down as Prime Minister. The Middle East and religious extremism. What are the solutions there, if any, when we come back?
The most positive sign, I think, is that it is increasingly clear that there is a large groundswell of opinion within the broader community of Islam, if you like, that says our religion has been abused.
Being a good father is important to me. So being diagnosed with advanced non-small cell lung cancer made me think of all the things that I wanted to teach my kids.
Another true story with Keytruda.
My doctor said I could start on Keytruda, so I did. With each scan, things just got better.
In a clinical study, Keytruda offered patients a longer life than chemotherapy, and it could be your first treatment. Constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in urine, changes in eyesight, muscle pain or weakness, joint pain, rash, itching or flushing, as this may keep these problems from becoming more serious. These are not all the possible side effects of Keytruda. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems, or if you've had an organ transplant, or lung, breathing, or liver problems.
Before, I'd think of the stuff I might miss. But now with Keytruda, we have hope.
Living longer is possible. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. Ask your doctor about Keytruda.
Most people come to LA with big dreams. We came with big appetites.
With Expedia, you can book a flight, hotel, car, and activity all in one place. Everything you need to go. Expedia.
Managing blood sugar is not a marathon.
companion. Available in the natural sleep section at Walmart.
So we are in this era where machines are making more and more decisions, even in a place like a restaurant, the Bryant Park Grill. Data drives what happens here, too. What's the future for that?
Artificial intelligence is now coming into play to bring together data, analytics, the human decision process. And we are now transforming the way KPMG is doing our business.
There's a factor of trust and quality in the application of AI. That goes directly back to the trust and the quality in the data under the AI.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yes.
I mean, if we don't clean the data, we are going to end up creating machines that learn the noise rather than the signal.
What we do at X.AI, we run a network. That means that when we service one person, we can do kind of okay. If we service 100,000 people, then all of a sudden we have this superhuman assistant that can learn from 100,000 people.
Yeah. The whole principle is pairing intelligent automation, machine learning, robotics, with people to handle the exceptions that machines can't do, and then making the machine smarter incrementally by taking in the information from a human interaction.
At KPMG, we are seeing the flooding of data. It is fantastic.
There's financial benefits, there's creativity.
Hold the name your price tool. Power of options based on your budget. And my angels.
Heaven is a place on
And we are back with the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. 10 years ago this week, he was the guest on the first ever airing of GPS. On that show, we talked about extremism. There were signs in June of 2008 that Al-Qaeda was on the wane. Little could we have imagined what would happen to that terror group and its leader, Osama bin Laden. But of course, then ISIS and others have popped up in its wake. Blair is now the executive chairman of his own eponymous Institute for Global Change. One of the things the Blair Institute concentrates on is countering extremism. Before we get to the larger problem of extremism, I want to ask you about a particular variation of it, Hamas and what had just happened. You have spent so much time dealing with this problem. Do you think it is fair to say, as the Israeli government does, that those 60 people who were killed, that was essentially Hamas's fault because they sacrificed those people to media attention?
Look, I think it's a tragedy when